I call to order a city council meeting for, let's see, today is Wednesday, February 26th. All members of the council are present with the exception of Councilmember Jacob. First item of business tonight is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have invited Mr. Matt Quinney to lead us in the pledge.
Thank you. If the audience will please rise, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight's a special evening. We have two special presentations to lead off. First of all, we will turn the time over to Chief Maxfield for badge pinning for our firefighters. Chief Maxfield.
Thank you, Council. If I could have Zach Kessler and Jordan Scouten come up with whoever's going to pin the badge on. Just to give you a little bit of background with these two individuals, Zach Kessler is being promoted to captain. He has already been promoted. He's been working with the West Jordan Fire Department for over 15 years, initially as an EMT and then later as a paramedic as well as a heavy rescue technician. He lives here in the city with his wife, Nicole, of almost 19 years, and they have two kids, Kylie, 15, and Carter, 11. And I would also point out that he also serves in the military and serves in that way as well. Jordan Scouten, if you want to step forward, Jordan, we'll have, in fact, if both of you will step right here. Jordan has been married to his beautiful wife for 15 years this year. He has three brave, amazing boys that he is proud of. He has been in the fire service for 9 years, coming from another agency. He joined the West Jordan Fire Department almost a year and a half ago, and we're grateful to have him on our department. He's completed his year of probation, and we'll be getting that badge pin. So with that,
While the badges are being pinned, if there's anyone that wants to come up and take pictures, please feel free to come up and do so. And then Chief Wallentyne.
Good evening, council members and city administration, mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to present three of our new officers. I ask the new officers to come up and stand on my right, and the command staff stand on my left in front of the firefighters, just for a minute, guys, and then we'll do pictures. And they will each be pinned. I'll introduce them in turn, but they'll each be pinned either by their spouse or girlfriend. So Casey Griffin, Jaden Anderson, and Dirk Peterson. We've given their spouse instructions to not draw blood, so I think we're all good. So step right up. Do y'all have badges? Because I can loan you one. All right.
And again, if you want to take pictures, please feel free to stand up. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Step up to take pictures. We'll have some pictures for you as well. And then we'll invite the council, if council chair, after we're done here, come down. Deputy Chief Robertson, do you now have 6 kids? Okay. Just a loner for the night? Oh, for a minute. Wow. Well, who wouldn't? You see, council, we also provide child care services. Robert, you good?
You guys have got to get a lot more friendly than this. Oh, yeah. You guys have got to snuggle. Like, think about how close you're going to be, so please family. Come on. All right. 1, 2, 3. You're the one that says cheese. Okay. Over here, over here. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Chief. We got it.
The refreshments will be on the second floor in the economic development lobby.
Right? We'll be back.
All right. Thank you to our chiefs for allowing the city council to take part of that. It's always a privilege when we're able to meet the folks who have sworn to protect, defend, and otherwise support the citizens of the city of West Jordan. So thank you for the service, and thank you for the opportunity for us as a council to be involved in that. We'll continue with our meeting this evening. The next item is citizen comment. I have 3 folks who have signed up to speak this evening, followed by any others who would like to address the council on any topic. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll start with Mr. Aaron Johnson. So Mr. Johnson, if you would, come to the podium, and then you'll have up to 3 minutes. If you have anything to provide to the council, you can give it to Mr. Anderson over here, and he can distribute it after.
I want to start off by thanking the Honorable City Council and the Honorable Mayor for your time tonight. I'm here today to ask for a special variance in zoning for West Jordan City. As of right now, permanent cosmetics are allowed in West Jordan, but no other body art, illustrative tattooing is not. I understand that the initial reactions for a tattoo studio comes with many views of reserve and hesitation. I and my studio, however, are far from a typical idea of most tattoo studios. I provide services far beyond typical tattooing. My studio is recognized around the U.S. as well as the world as not just a place to go to for illustrative tattooing, but also for a procedure called dermographic restoration. Demographic restoration is a process used to help women in the final phase of the journey of the breast cancer. 1 in 8 women will go through some form of breast cancer. My studio is part of this journey, and this is the final process of their journey. I reconstruct the areola, also cover scars using illustrative tattoo techniques. There are permanent cosmetologists who also do areola reconstruction, but the technique that they use does not produce the same quality of tattooing that I provide. The processes they use are not permanent and are required to be touched up after a few years. The technique I use lasts for up to 10 plus years. This is extremely important to the women who have to have this done to put this chapter in their life behind them. I have multiple surgeons across the valley who refer directly to me, as well as a few surgeons outside in Nevada, Idaho, and Wyoming. Excuse me, at this point, it is important to understand that because these women do not feel comfortable coming to a typical tattoo studio, my current studio, I am complimented on a regular basis on how I've made the studio so welcoming and comfortable. This also applies to those who are just getting illustrative tattooing done for adornment. I have many clients who work with law enforcement, EMS, and military. The vast majority of our clients fall into this category. That being letters of recommendation that was passed out from law enforcement and also surgeons, one of the surgeons that recommends me, who is the head of the Department of Reconstructive Surgery for Intermountain Healthcare.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have your contact information, and we'll be getting in touch with you shortly. Thank you. Next person who signed up to speak is Devin Eskelson.
I have to say, well, my name is Devin Eskelson. I have to say I'm kind of glad that the room cleared out a little bit of all the officers, even though, and firefighters, and you'll find out why. But good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'd like to start by saying that I do have the utmost respect for our elected officials, for the men and women that serve the West Jordan Police and Fire Departments. However, an incident that occurred on Friday, January 24th, has been questioning, excuse me, if a few officers from the West Jordan Police Department take their responsibility of providing a safe and appealing place to live and work to their heart. Around 5:23 p.m. on Friday, January 24th, my daughter and I were leaving Target in Jordan Landing. As we were about halfway through the crosswalk, we noticed that a vehicle was approaching us very quickly. It appeared to us that the vehicle was not going to stop. And in fact, the vehicle did not stop until I turned to face the vehicle and I gestured that, hey, this is a crosswalk. The motorist gestured back as if to say, well, get out of my way. I again gestured, it's a crosswalk. The motorist proceeded forward, striking me with her car. Excuse me. Continued forward to 7800, made a right-hand turn and exited, leaving the scene of a crime. The officers that responded, I thanked them for coming. I gave them my verbal and written testimony or comments. I found out that the motorist may receive a citation if they could find the motorist. I got a copy of the report and the video, and after reading it, it was very easy to conclude that little effort was put forward in finding this motorist. My plea to you, our city council members, is to investigate the officer's lack of due diligence in locating this motorist. The motorists proved that they consider themselves above the laws that are designed to protect the tens of thousands of pedestrians that visit Jordan Landing weekly. It is my hope that the motorist is apprehended before someone, maybe someone you know or a family member, is seriously injured or killed. In conclusion, I'd just like to add that I did physically get a few minor bruises, but those don't compare to the experience and the emotional and mental trauma that is associated with being struck by a vehicle in an area.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak is Matt Quinney.
Thank you. I was just telling Rich Sontag back here that for somebody who comes to their first meeting at City Council and gets asked to lead the pledge, that person's probably never going to come back. That's an overwhelming experience for you guys. And it's interesting because I've sat in this and led many meetings for the last 5+ years. And that was the most nervous I've been in this room. So thank you for that opportunity, Councilmember Green. Sorry, you old habits there. Thank you for letting me come and speak with you guys tonight. I am actually here representing the West Jordan Youth Soccer Board this evening. One of the other things that I get to participate in with my kids and in the community. And this coming spring season, I think April 18th is the date, we are going to hold an appreciation breakfast for some of the members of the city administration. So that includes all members of the council, that includes the mayor and some of the chief level, so Mr. Lee and some of his associates in his office suite. And we'll get the invitations out officially, but because of the date coming up so close, I wanted to make sure that we got in front of you as quick as possible to make sure that you know that you are going to be invited. We'll get the times to you, but it's expected to start about 8:30. We'll have a little bit of a breakfast and a little bit of a thank you ceremony. And then for those that are able to participate and want to continue, we'll drive you around in some golf carts and show you some of the fields, just so you can see what's going on. Lee and some of the members of the board this last couple of months to make sure that we get to show our willingness to be a better partner, but also to receive some of the concessions as a partner back from you guys. So anyway, if you just put that on your calendar, we'll get you an official invitation just as soon as we can, put them together on the computer. We'll get them out for you guys. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But you can grab me later. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the thought in extending the invitation as well to our partners with Salt Lake City. That's very appreciated. I have no other signups that have been submitted in advance, so now I will open it up to anybody who wishes to speak to the City Council. You can have up to 3 minutes, and we don't necessarily take action on anything tonight, but you can speak about anything you'd like. I would just ask that you share your name and let us know if you're a West Jordan resident before you begin. So, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Jed Fuller. Thanks for having me. Grateful for the country we live in and this democracy to be able to express our desires, needs, wants, and in an open forum like this. I am not a West Jordan resident. I live in South Salt Lake, but I have lived all over the valley, recently in South Jordan. I wanted to talk in regards to the upcoming park that was just discussed earlier, and specifically the skate park. I am in favor of it and think it's something that needs to happen, not just because I love skateboarding, but because skateboarding has saved my life, and in turn, I've been able to save other people's lives. I've been skating for over 30 years. About 17 years ago, went through severe depression, suicide attempts. Coming out of that, I realized that skateboarding was always my Zoloft, if you will. And I realized I wasn't taking enough of it, so I started doing more of it. And through that process, gained the headspace that I needed to be able to make the changes I needed to become a better person, a better human being to live for greatness. I've seen a lot of changes in the skateboard industry and in the way cities, towns, individuals, police approach it. It's different now than it was when I was a kid. I'm 46 years old. After coming out of my depression, I decided I was going to do the impossible and pursue my lifelong My lifelong dream of becoming a professional skateboarder. Uh, um, 2 years ago, at the age of 44, I became a professional skateboarder, received my own model, and in turn have inspired, I hope, thousands. But I get several comments every day in social media of the impact or effect my dream has had on people's lives. I've had several of those comments allude to the fact and even state the fact that because of me, they started skating again and they didn't go down this dark road. The last thing I want to say is because of the influx of skate parks throughout the world, I've seen a lot of kids that were 12 that are now 30 that are still alive because they had people like me to go hang out with at the skate park.
Mr. Fuller, thank you for your comments and perspective. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council tonight? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to communication. So we'll start with the mayor's report.
Thank you, Chair McConaughey. As you are aware, I've had a second home these past couple of weeks over up at the Capitol. Great things are happening and some things that are not quite so great, but it's busy and exciting and fun, and I've enjoyed doing that and representing the city up there. Yesterday, there was a bill that was at committee. It happened to be at the same time that there was a meeting over at the county about some development. So I went to one and I sent one of my staff members to the other one. But the one I was at was with Senator Harper's bill, Senate Bill 150. And this bill has lots of different things, but one of the main things that affects West Jordan is it will, if it's passed, remove the cap for TODs, which means the TOD that we applied for last year, where we came in one below, we can reapply for, and there won't be a limit on caps, and the odds of us having the TOD across the street increase a great deal. So that passed through committee and will be going to the floor this coming week. Also, I want to thank you for the timely response on getting back to me that we could put a letter together to share with Salt Lake County in connection with the Olympia Hills development. Although they didn't accommodate the direction of our letter, they at least know where we stand and how we feel about what's happening over there. And there is one more opportunity, as you're aware, there'll be one more vote on that, and we're going to continue to let our thoughts and feelings be shared with them on there. After the meeting last night that I was at the Capitol, I went directly to Jordan, to Jordan School District's board meeting. And at Jordan School's board meeting, one of the great things they did, which I was excited about and I didn't know was going to happen before I got there, is they featured West Jordan High School. And I've asked for the copy of the video. They made a video about it and the great things that West Jordan High School has and some of the past and the future that's happening there. So as soon as I get a hold of that, I will share that with you. That's also where we learned the new name of the name of the new school is getting built in West Jordan, which I love the acronym, which is ACES, for Antelope Canyon Elementary School. And one other thing that came up there is they told us that they now have a date scheduled for the ribbon cutting for West Jordan Middle School. And I will be sharing that with you. I wrote that down, but I don't have that note with me, so I will give that to you electronically. The drawback is during a council meeting. It's on a Wednesday evening. I will still let you know when that is, but be aware that I will leave this meeting for a few minutes, go to that, and then come back and rejoin us. But it'll be happening in March. I just don't remember which meeting it was in March. And then another thing I want to mention to you is I happened to see in Facebook there were some people that were complaining about some of the debris getting blown around over by Waste Management. So I went over and met with Waste Management this morning about that. And they continue to have people going out and cleaning that up. They said they would do that again today. And they do that each day there's wind. And you know, they've tried some things to help keep that debris under control. They put the nets up, which haven't been as effective as they thought they would be, and other things. So they've done something else that's going to be much more effective. In about a month and a half, they're moving all the recycling to a new facility that they built in Salt Lake City. They will still be here in West Jordan. Their recycling will not be here in West Jordan. And so that will eliminate that debris problem that we've had from Waste Management. So, and they said that they're fine if we share that information and pass that on. So we appreciate them going to the trouble to be good partners with us here in West Jordan, and they'll continue to be here in West Jordan and want to continue to be good partners with us in West Jordan. That's all I have for right now. If you have any questions for me.
Appears not. Thank you,
Thank
Mayor. CAO report from Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I just have two reports, one from Tawny. She's going to report on a number of items happening in the community engagement area. And then I want Brian to share with you and really share with the public a story about the efforts of one of our employees recently.
Brian stole my desk, so I'm stealing this desk. I am excited to report on a few items to you guys tonight. First of all, I want to thank the council for your efforts to watch out for and recognize good deeds and good efforts in our city. It helps us share the good news of the city and spread it a little bit broader and beyond the city council meeting. One great example of that was Councilmember Worthen's recognition of the Utah Girls Football League. We were able to take that opportunity, that appearance that they came before you, and share that with some of our media friends, and that appeared, a story about that appeared on KSL over the weekend. So I thank you for recognizing the girls, the council for keeping an eye towards recognizing those kinds of things. And then just want to credit Marie, who is doing an amazing job with our communications. She is working hard to establish a newsroom for the city and is writing up stories on things like this Utah Girls Football League that we can pass on to our friends at the media, but also to our residents as we recognize those on Facebook. So thank you for your efforts there. I also wanted to report to you on the Tall and Small Ball that occurred last week. It was our third annual Daddy-Daughter event, and we have renamed it just slightly so that we can invite young boys and moms who'd like to participate with us. It's traditionally been a great event for the city. This year was no exception. In fact, in years past, we've topped out at about 400 to 450 attendees. This year, we had over 625 attendees, so we increased our attendance by quite a bit. And that's of special note because this year is the first year we've charged for that event. We charged a nominal fee to have people attend. That fee helped us cover the expenses of the event, and we were able to make up about half the difference in that event. So my team is doing their part to help make sure that we're having good city events and that they're funded appropriately. Marie, Heather, Everett, and Lindsay all worked very, very hard on that event. So if you get a chance, efforts to present a unified voice and to communicate the city's wishes, hopes, and desires with them, so to speak. So thank you for participating in the mayor's office with that. Also a special thanks to David Bricky and to Alan Anderson for doing the quick work of, it was a little bit of a last minute request, and they jumped through a bunch of hoops and did some quick work and were able to communicate with all of you. So we appreciate both your time and attention as well as theirs. It was a positive activity for the city to participate in, and again, just my honor to represent you there. We've been active, as the mayor mentioned, up on the Hill. We're actively working on many of the bills we updated you with last time, but I wanted to call out one specifically that we continue to work with, which is House Bill 273, which is the property rights ombudsman amendments. As you recall, this bill would allow developers who go through the ombudsman's office and then take a case to court to collect compensatory damages. We believe as a city, and we are in lockstep with the Utah League of Cities and Towns, that this bill could have a chilling effect on planning commissions, city council members, even city employees who are trying to do their job and do a good job. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to work with the sponsor to amend that legislation and make it a bit more workable, is maybe the best way I can put it. We're actively engaged in a small group with the Utah League of Cities and Towns to work on this legislation, and we'll continue to keep you updated. Another bill that I wanted to bring to your attention that was just numbered this last week is House Bill 374, Local Government Building Regulation. This one is particularly concerning because it would allow for developers applying for for a building permit to opt out of local government building inspections if licensed. This is obviously of huge concern to the city. It is the government's role to regulate in these kinds of things, and if no one is stepping in to regulate, it is quite concerning. And Mayor, I don't know if I know this is one you've been following specifically. Do you have anything to add to that?
They've received lots of input from other municipalities in addition to us, so they are working on a substitute one and claiming that the inspections will be replaced back in that. So I haven't seen it yet. When I see it in writing, I'll believe it. Until then, I'm watching.
And working on that amended language. And as you can imagine, the mayor has a particular interest in this one and has been very, very helpful to our efforts there.
I find that shocking.
In fact, he's been joking. You can see his red finger. We've been teasing him that he's been wagging his finger over this bill a little bit too much up on the Hill, and that's what happened there. But wanted to make mention of that one because it's one we're following closely right now and could have quite a large impact on the city. I also want to make mention of House Bill 310, extraterritorial amendments, which is specifically dealing with the airport. Not a lot of discussion here other than I know you've received a lot of phone calls about this. We appreciate your support and continue to work with our representatives on this particular bill. And please know that right now this bill is being held in committee, which means no action is currently being taken. We anticipate there may be a substitute bill, but we haven't seen anything on that yet. And we will review that and let you know what it looks like as soon as we see it, if we see that come out this session. So just wanted to update you on that and let you know it's being held currently, and there's really not any further information until we see a substitute. The final thing I wanted to touch on was just the transportation funding. Obviously, this has been a huge part of our efforts up on the Hill this year. Today, we did get formal, informal confirmation that this year we will see funding for the full completion of Mountain View Corridor go through the legislature. We are thrilled. But what is even more exciting beyond that is that we received word today it is likely that the state will take control and fully fund U-111 beyond from West Jordan and beyond our city's borders into Harriman. As you know, that's a tricky one. Getting that road up to speed, so to speak, oh man, the mayor's wearing off on me, is paramount to our city's success. So those were two huge wins that we learned about up at the legislature today. We're going to continue to follow that legislation and work with our lobbyists to ensure that that comes to fruition. But right now, it's looking really good. So that's my report for this evening. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like us to watch out for?
If I may clarify on the Mountain View, it's full length, it's not the interlanes yet, it's the full length.
Yep.
Any questions for Tani? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to council office reports with Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman McConaughey. Just a couple things. Number one, I want to thank the council members for assisting David and I yesterday in assembling this letter that the city could have a unified voice with the development project in Salt Lake County. And secondly, I just want to also express my appreciation and thanks for Tangi. I'm now sitting in her seat and taking notes and making sure timers are running and notes are taking and buttons are being pushed. Literally. So I just want to thank Tangi for, we spent a lot of time today just learning the system and getting it set up. And it's been a pleasure. So I look forward to continuing to work with her and Ms. Quick as we get all this moving. So that's the report from the council office. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to council communications then, and we'll start with Councilmember Wortham.
I had an opportunity to go to Chamber West dinner with several of you actually that went with us. It was amazing. They honored the military. And funny enough, I had an experience, and I'll keep this quick and short. Yesterday, we've owned a trailer for years, and a couple guys drove down from Hill Air Force Base to pick it up yesterday. I didn't know they were soldiers. And they got out of the truck, full uniform, you know, just ready to pick it up and take off with it. And as the gentleman handed me or the soldier, excuse me, handed me the money, he says, "I'd like you to go ahead and count that." And I said, "Well, if I can't trust you, who can I trust?" Then I turned around and took a portion of that money and handed it back to him. And he says, "What are you doing? The price is the price." And I said, "I just want to thank you for serving our country." He goes, "Ma'am, no, the price is the price." And I said, "No, sir, I was raised to shake a hand, show respect, and buy a meal." And that's what I wanted to do. And gave him a little more than probably should have for a meal, but definitely buy your buddies a meal. I just wanted to pass that along because it's very important to me. When I got elected in, I thanked all of you who voted for me or against me that you voted. But this country means a lot to me. And if you get the opportunity, fire, police, military, shake a hand, show respect, and buy a meal if you get the opportunity. That's all I have for tonight.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Thank you. Because we ran out of time last time and didn't do remarks, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do all of it now because I had a lot last time and I don't want to run out of time again. So the first thing is I serve on the Community Arts Building and we're moving along, so I'm just wondering if we want to have a report come before us. If we do, then maybe put it on the schedule, because I think it might be a good time to hear that. Then I just want to bring up to my body that while we did have our meeting where we met together to talk about goals, I thought, we didn't come up with goals and priorities, so I'd still like to see us do that. I'm not ultra concerned about the COVID-19 virus, coronavirus, but my husband sure is. And so and I remember reading something, I don't remember what it was, but it basically said the council had a role in the city's safety plan, and seeing as how we have new council members, I would like I would like an update on what our city's safety plan is, what our plan is. A couple of years ago, because I have a nursing background, I did a whole continuing ed course on what we're gonna do if there's a pandemic in the area. But I think our city needs to know what we're gonna do and make sure that we're prepared. I'd like to be prepared. Then I had brought this last time to share, and she's a child in our community. Her name's Kaylee Bachiko. I'm probably slaughtering her name, but she's only 8 years old, and she's a national mariachi vocal grand champion. She beat people a lot older than her. And I've thought about this a lot. In Riverton, they highlight people from their schools. I think they do both students and other community members, but I think it's something that we ought to incorporate into our city council. It does a couple of things. It highlights the good things in our community, and it brings people in, because that's important. And something that we did on the school board, and this is coming from the frugal one, but I thought it was a nice thing that we did, that we had pins. And when that girls' football team was here, we would have given them pins. We would give pins to the firemen and the police. And I would like to see us do that. I think it's a good thing. Again, I think it's a good community. Bring them in, help them celebrate our city with us. And then I'm just gonna say, I've seen the list of all of the work that we have to do. I don't think it's fair to the citizens of our city that we're not willing to work an extra day. We need to put in the time, and it needs to be when we're not so tired that we're not making good decisions, or that we just want to rush through because we have our agenda and we want to get through. So I highly encourage us to reconsider not being willing to have work meetings. They work really well, and we need them. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Green.
I'll echo that. I think we got to revisit that. We've got to figure out some sort of way. We've got too many things on our agenda that have got to get out of the way, and if we don't do it, we're going to get stacked up worse than a wreck on 90th South in rush hour traffic at 13th West. Never mind. I've never been stuck in one of those. It's your fault, Brian. I wanted to mention, since you mentioned a couple other people, congratulations to the Copper Hills girls basketball team. I think they won region this was the 5th year in a row that they won region, and West Jordan girls also won region. I didn't pay much attention to the boys. I normally pay more attention to high school basketball season because I referee basketball. And this year with some bad knees, I stopped reffing, and with all the council stuff that happened in January, I couldn't have gone to a game anyway. So, but congratulations to them. Now I'm gonna get emotional. And I'll try to, well, I didn't think I'd get that emotional, but I want to thank Tawny and her staff for the Princess Ball. Well, and the reason why is you don't know how much different that makes in the lives of people. I attended with my 2 granddaughters, and I was standing there talking with Tawny, and I had noticed a member who was wearing, it's close to home, I'm so sorry, but he was wearing his blue military dress uniform, and he walked past, and he was a warrant officer. I'm a warrant officer. That's like an automatic connection. I noticed he was a pilot. We were talking, and I asked him what he drove, and he said he drove 64s, and if any of you know, that means he flies Apaches. And I asked him what he thought of the ball. And he said, I brought my daughter before we head out. So that means that he was deploying to me. I don't know if he was or not, but what that tells me is from somebody who's gone through those kind of things to be separated from a family, to go off to strange places like Macedonia and Iraq and Dugway, never mind, that those kind of things mean the world to people.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Chair McConaughey. I had the opportunity to attend the rodeo committee meeting last week, and let me tell you, this is a great committee that we have. Here it is February, and we are already far ahead of getting things ready for the rodeo. I can't take credit for anything because I just kind of show up and help out where I can, but we have great committee members that are working hard already in February to make sure that the rodeo is a success, not only for the city, but for those that attend our rodeo as well. From concessions to vendors to sponsorships. Most of you don't know this, there's a person that is in charge of dirt. You wouldn't think there'd be a person in charge of dirt, but we have, I don't know if I have the right word, Chris, is it Class A dirt? We have some of the best dirt, rodeo dirt, in the country for our rodeo, and it's a big deal. And so I just want to thank the rodeo committee. I know they're not here tonight, but if they're listening or watching this, know that you're doing a great job, and I'm so grateful that we still have the rodeo here in our city. I know when they chose to redo the park, there were a few council members who did not want the rodeo grounds in the park anymore, because rodeo grounds are hard to take care of. But I do thank those council members way back when we redid the park, that they kept the rodeo grounds there, and that we still have that here in West Jordan. So thank you.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I mentioned a few comments in the previous work session just regarding the proposed expansion to Ronwood Park, and I know we'll probably talk about that a little more as well. And I love running through different neighborhoods in the community just to get exercise and also just to get a different understanding of what's going on neighborhood by neighborhood, and it's fun speaking with people outside as I'm just walking or jogging, just introducing myself and seeing what's on people's minds. And so when we have that discussion, I can share more. And just in response to other council members' comments, definitely as Council Member Whitelock mentioned, I love the idea of pins, a token of appreciation and gratitude to celebrate greatness. I tell my children all the time, it's nice to see what other people are doing and get inspired by a skater or anyone else. We love watching America's Got Talent because we see all of these people with different talents, and it helps them be inspired to find their own talents. And I remember participating in a Red Cross emergency preparedness training. It was a 4-hour training. It wasn't a CERT training, but it addressed a lot of the issues that you mentioned, Councilmember Whitelock. That was when I was PTA president at the elementary school, just in case we had a lockdown or some mass incidents that we had to take care of. So maybe we could flesh out that idea a little more. And Councilmember Worthen, yes, I think all my bonus points to Cafe Rio and Chick-fil-A are spent on buying our public servants meals, police, fire, EMT, military. And I agree with Councilmember Green. I have so many good daddy-daughter memories of going to these dances and trying to carpe diem and seize the day while you can. My daughters are 13 and 21 now, so I asked if they wanted to go to this daddy-daughter dance. They're like, oh, Dad. I'm like, I know, but I like tradition, and stop growing up so fast. So you think you have them till 18, but apparently 13's too old already. And I've loved being able to serve on the entertainment committee for Western Stampede. It's been my honor to sing the national anthem a couple of times, and I think there's great value in tradition, and it's always that balance of we need to progress must progress, but we don't want to lose our roots, the city of the good neighbor, agricultural community, so we need to balance tradition of the past with moving forward for the future. So I look forward to continuing to working with all of you and also speaking with residents wherever I can be, just to see what's on their minds and so that we know what should be at the forefront of our conversations and deliberations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Tonight, I would like to also thank Tawny primarily for rebranding the daddy-daughter ball to the tall and small. We have 5 boys, so there's not much opportunity for me, but my wife would love the opportunity to take, for example, our 6-year-old and have an evening. We weren't able to make it work this time around, but the inclusivity that's being pursued is very much appreciated, so thank you for that. The mayor was kind enough to point out to me that I don't have a perfect view from up here on the dais, and there was somebody who was wishing to speak during council member comments that I didn't see. If the council is not opposed, I would like to reopen did I say council comments? I meant citizen comments. There's somebody who wished to speak during citizen comments that didn't have an opportunity. If there's no objection from the council, I'd like to reopen citizen comments. And I'll remind you that you can have up to 3 minutes to speak on any item of your choice. And please start off with your name and let us know if you're a resident of West Jordan or what your relation to the city is. And then if there's anybody else who would like to speak after, this is your only opportunity in the meeting to do so.
Good evening. My name is Steve Sanders. I am a resident of West Jordan City. What I wanted to comment on is the proposal for 6400 West and the 6700 West Road. I live on the corner of Wellsby and 6400 West, and talking to residents, in our neighborhood, we're concerned that traffic is going to become too much for there. We're already having problems with commercial vehicles damaging our properties, parking in no parking zones. For some reason, they took away the no truck signs on 6400 West. We now have semis passing the Wilshire apartment complex, which is on a curve, so there's been many near misses, getting forced off the shoulder to try and not get hit by the trucks because they're trying to avoid the cars and people there. Like I said, the trucks are damaging our property, taking out stop signs, taking out light poles. So we feel concerned that doing that will increase the traffic, especially the truck traffic heading to Cisco and them parking along there and making it even more noisy than it is now. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Would you, I did not get a sheet from you, but would you please make sure you chat with Mr. Clegg right here on the corner in the blue shirt? Make sure he has your contact information so he can reach out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak during citizen comments? Please do.
Hi all, I'm Chandler Swenson. I'm a resident of Midvale City, but I represent Vast Data Centers that is planning to come into West Jordan, and our property line abuts the road that is being proposed to replace the 6400 West extension with 6700 West. Wanted to be here tonight to hear any comments that were going to come up on the discussion of the road. We want to be active partners with the city as we build our business in your city. So just wanted to introduce myself to anybody here from the engineering team that we are here and we want to participate in any discussions going forward on that road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. And would you also please make sure Mr. Clegg has your contact information for that? Is there anybody else who'd like to address the council tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on to consent items. I have not had anybody ask to have anything pulled for discussion. If there is, we can pull it, or if not, I'd be open to a motion. Councilmember Whitelock.
I move that we approve consent items 6A, B, C, and D.
Second.
So motion by Councilmember Whitelock, second by Councilmember Green. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
All right, we'll see how this goes. Councilmember Green.
Do I need to say this really slow so you get it right?
No, I'm just checking
Angie's
boxes.
shaking her head. So it's yes.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Are you always going to call on me second? Yes.
Chair McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, next up, a well-deserved round of applause for Mr. Anderson for successfully making it through that one. All
First
right.
one's a charm.
Okay, moving on to our business items. First item is a follow-up from the appeal that we heard from Sandy City last week. This is a little bit different than regular business items. This is not a legislative action. This is a quasi-judicial ruling, so this does not require a vote from the council. Rather, it just requires the announcement of the decision of the council. So to make sure I get this right, I'm going to just read this verbatim. After reviewing all of the facts, evidence, and arguments, the West Jordan City Council has granted Sandy City's appeal in accordance with West Jordan Municipal Code 3-3-7. A final written order, including findings of fact, conclusions of law, order, and setting of rates, will be published no later than 30 days from the hearing held on February 12th, 2020. A refund shall be made to Sandy City no later than March 12th, 2020, pursuant to the order. Copies of the order will be provided to the appellant, to the office of the city recorder, and transmitted to the Sandy City Attorney's Office. Mr. Wall, is there anything else we need to do, or does that suffice?
That's sufficient.
Thank you. Moving on, business item 8B, which is Jordan School District presentation, and this is from Board President Bryce Dunford. We'd invite you to the podium.
Thank you, council members, Mr. Mayor, staff, citizens of West Jordan. I'm thrilled to be here, represent Jordan School District, Board of Education. We are so grateful to be partners. West Jordan poses an interesting challenge for us because part of the city is shrinking in enrollment and the other one is busting at the seams. Jordan School District grows at about 1,500 students a year, which is approximately the size of a middle school. Every 2 years, we've grown approximately the size of a high school. So we're here tonight to kind of keep you updated as to some of the projects that are going on in the city of West Jordan. We're happy to announce that we are coming to the close of the rebuild of West Jordan Middle School. That date that Mayor Burton mentioned was April 29th at 7 p.m. will be the dedication of that new school. Thank you so much for your help in that. It's very difficult to build a new school feet from the other school and then tear the old school down. Thank you for helping us with construction and roads and traffic and parking, and we promise we will have a very beautiful parking facility that will keep those students off the streets and the parents have a nice place to park. But that is coming to a close, and those were paid for by the bond proceedings of 2016. We are also in the middle of constructing a new elementary school in West Jordan, which we will be opening up this fall, called Antelope Canyon Elementary School. That will alleviate the crowding in some very crowded elementary schools in West Jordan. And finally, the very last year-round elementary school in West Jordan is going traditional. That's great news for a lot of parents in West Jordan. We will also be constructing an additional phase of our transportation facility just south of the airport. Those are some of the projects that are ongoing and continuing. I believe we've distributed a document that has some of the information on it so you can see where we are. We're grateful to be partners. I just wanted to add, Councilmember Green, the West Jordan boys basketball team went 10-0. Won Region 2, but they lost today in the quarterfinals to Fremont. That's our presentation. Is there any questions I can answer for the council?
Councilmember Lamb.
First of all, thanks for your service. So your job is as difficult as ours. You have a lot of decisions to make. I'm a parent of a son that's going to be going to West Jordan Middle School, and I've heard a lot of concern about the traffic flow now that it's on that side road there that goes by the church back there. Has the Jordan School District looked at a better way for traffic flow for West Jordan Middle School once the parking lot's finished? I'm just kind of, I want to give.
I know there are discussions going on about that. I don't know what they are, but I know that we are having those discussions about that. That's a concern several parents have addressed to us as well.
Yeah, and maybe it's something that both the district and the city can work on together, because I know there's a lot of traffic in the morning and when the kids are dropped off, and you know, I can't say we'll put a traffic light in there, but maybe that's a discussion that the district and the city can have, so that we can make it safer, not only for the people driving, but make sure the kids don't get ran over.
I know the school community council is actively talking about that subject and trying to find a safe route.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring up again the video from West Jordan High to make sure that's something that we can get to the council.
We will.
And I also, while you're here with us, thank you for taking care of Majestic Elementary and doing some clever things to keep that elementary school open. Thank you for that.
Speaking of which, we are placing a music program at Majestic Elementary, and we are exploring all the ramifications of that, hoping to draw students from all over the district and increase the enrollment at Majestic.
Councilmember Whitelock.
I just want to point out, President Dunford, that you also have a board member, Matt Young, with you. Thank you for being here, Matt. It's great to see you. And then recently I heard from a developer that they were considering a charter school in their development in our city, if their development gets approved. You know, they're open to all things, but although I like charter schools, I also like district schools. They're all public schools, but you know, I think the district might want to think about that too. And so just you know, make sure that you talk to him. Seeing how he's sitting right there.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you for being here and for your work.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chair. It's a pleasure networking with you up at Copper Hills High School. Thank you again for all your service too and your capacity. And a question for you, just to make sure I understand that statistic correctly, on the influx of 1,500 new students each year, approximate. Is that taking in account the students that age out past 12th grade, so it's in versus out, that's across the entire district or the entire city? The entire district, not just the city. Okay. Thank you very much.
And Councilmember Pack, if you could turn off your mic, we will go to Councilmember Worthen.
Hi, thanks for coming tonight. I recently signed up to start coming to the board meetings so I can represent the council in West Jordan City. I'm a daughter of a 41-year veteran teacher, taught in the Jordan School District for over 20 years, I believe, through most of her career. I very much support our teachers. I'm 110% behind them. My mom was one that stayed late, worked with kids, called them to wake them up in the morning, pulled money out of her own pocket, so I have a very high respect for our teachers and our school district. As you know, our west side is developing, and you said, do we have one side losing students and one side coming up? I will be attending your meetings as regularly as possible for myself. Work sessions will be a little difficult with my job, but I want to make sure that we're communicating and that you are speaking with our developers that are planning on coming here. And if you could have someone come to council meetings a little more regularly, just so you're more aware of what's moving in out there. I did live on the west side of U-111, and my daughter went to Sunset, and God bless them, because it's very crowded, and my son went to Copper Hills, and this was many years ago, and it was super crowded, which I'm sure you're aware of, so I'd love to get some new schools out in that direction to help our citizens alleviate those two buildings.
One of our biggest concerns when we were opening up the new schools
Recently from the bond, and we were considering changing boundaries throughout the whole school district. And we were looking at long-term solutions. with a shrinking population at West Jordan High School and a growing population at Copper Hills High School, the logical thing to do was to just start shifting students from Copper Hills to West Jordan. And we found that West Jordan might as well have the Sahara Desert running right through the center of it. And the idea of busing students from west of the airport to schools east of the airport was not palpable to very many people, especially on crowded early morning streets. And so we made the decision to not do that for the sake of transportation and continuity and neighborhoods. But let's be honest, that results in 2 very crowded middle schools in West Jordan and a very crowded high school. We do own property, but most likely we are looking at a future bond to alleviate the crowding, and so a partnership between Jordan School District and the City of West Jordan is very, very needed and welcome on our behalf. So thank you for all that you do. We love and serve the same people. They are our lives, they are our passion, and we want them to succeed, and we hope in some way we help you succeed because you have very much helped us succeed.
See no other questions. Thank you, Board President Dunford, for coming here this evening. You're
Thank
always
you.
welcome to join us whenever you'd like.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.
Next item of business is discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 20-03 regarding solid waste containers. Brian Clegg's name's associated with this one, so we'll put you on the spot.
Well, as much as I love standing up here talking to you folks, I'm going to turn the time over to Denise, as she was the lead on this issue.
Denise, your turn.
Coming out of the closet. It's easier to work back there. We are asking that you recommend, we had a work session last council meeting on amending Title 5, Chapter 5, and Title 9, Chapter 2, Article A, mostly regarding changing this code to be consistent in the terms that it's using for the solid waste program, as well as providing securities for the staff to collect on past due payments and provide methodology for them to do so and discontinue service when necessary. So we're recommending that you approve the red-lined copy, the red legislative copy that you were provided this last week. It's gone through legal, and I'm available if you have questions or comments about the changes. I believe we incorporated all of the changes as they were recommended by the council in the work session.
So with that, we'll return this to the council for discussion or questions or potentially a motion. Councilmember Worthen.
Dang it, we all changed in there. So I just have to make this comment and maybe it's an inside joke, 28 pages.
I know.
I have never read 28 pages on solid waste containers. And kudos. I mean, when I announced 2 weeks ago, the effort that people put in up here and a lot of the work, 28 pages, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the ones who put that together. Thank you to all who read it. Great job.
Councilmember Whitelock.
You have, okay. I just also wanted to thank you because when I went through, I could see that you had listened and you had incorporated what we offered, and I greatly appreciate that. And with that, I would like to move that we adopt Title 5 and Title 9, right? And Title 9 with the changes as listed.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Whitelock, second by Councilmember Lamb. Just for clarity, I'm just want to confirm that you mean adoption of the full ordinance 20-03 was the intent of the motion, okay. Let's vote. Or sorry, before we do that, are there any questions or comments or anything, any further discussion to the motion? Okay, now let's vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Whitelock.
Yes.
Not first. Or not second. Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Aye.
Chair McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Thank you, council.
Next item is discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 20-13, which is updating the adopted City Transportation Master Future Roadway Network map. And we have Nate Nelson's name on that, but it looks like Bill Baranowski is going to be speaking to this one.
Hey, Alan, do you have my presentation? I've got it here if you need it.
I printed out your presentation and gave it to the council before meeting started. The PowerPoint is in the shared drive, free space, city council, as Tangi is telling me.
Is there a pointer too?
If IT has a pointer, is there not one up on the?
You can use this one. Bill, we've got a couple up here.
Go to free space. Right there.
Well, I'm excited to be here in front of the new council. Welcome. And I attended my neighborhood daddy-daughter dance with my 7-year-old 2 weeks ago, and that was the best thing ever. So I'm in agreement with you. That was great. And the school district here, we met with all the schools about a week ago to go over their safe route to school plans. And we reckon there's 29 schools in the city. There's, if you count all the schools, the elementary, there's one from Granite School District in the city. There's about 4 charter schools and 1 private school. So we count all the schools as schools. So 29, that's a big number. I think it's probably one of the highest in the whole state. So schools are very important. I'm here tonight to talk about a change to the plan. If we can just go to the next picture. Project VAST and Project Hula and Project Lone Star are 3 big projects on the west side. And Lone Star is now called Amazon. The secret's out, it's Amazon. And I went out there yesterday and took pictures. The rest of my presentation shows some pictures of the site on Amazon and some of the roads that are existing out there. And the reason for this change to the master plan is we had some redundant roads here. We've got 67th West, 64th West, and with these projects happening, and in working with the developers, the Hula and VAST developers, and with the Jones family, I think Mike Jones is here. There he is. So in conjunction with these property owners, we thought it would be prudent and save some money and still move traffic out here if we could combine the 2 north-south roads into one new road called 67th West or 66 West from Old Bingham up to Wells Park Road, then up to New Bingham here. And that would save a lot of money for everybody and still move the traffic. And this figure here shows what we expect the future to be at build out after the year 2040. So if you have any questions for me or for anyone here,
We'll start with
welcome.
questions from Councilmember Whitelock.
So Bill, when I'm looking at Wells Park Road and the proposed 6600, am I looking at a circle?
So that's just a connection point. It could be a square intersection, it could be around it, that hasn't been determined.
Well,
But-
I wouldn't be in favor of a roundabout there if we're dealing with semis.
We're just talking an intersection.
Okay, okay. It just appears as a circle, and that concerns me.
We like putting in circles, but if you'd like one, we can add one there,
I
certainly.
prefer not. Can you show me on that map where the gentleman was speaking, where the issue is that he came to address us with?
So our master plan was approved in 2015 as this project VAST, right here. And it had a road, collector road. And if you show the next slide, it shows what let's see, next one after that. So this is the cross-section of a major collector road, 3-lane road. So up and down the center of that property. And with the spacing of the roads out there, that would have bisected their property in half.
But I think he was speaking of a road that currently exists.
Are you talking about Mr. Sanders' comments about 6400 West,
Yes.
corner 6400 West and Wells?
So he's talking about the,
These are future proposed roads.
okay. So in your opinion, Bill, would this take traffic away from that area that he was concerned about?
Well, instead of the road through their middle of their property, it would be adjacent to their property, and they would actually share the cost with their neighbor. So it could carry the same traffic, but in just a slightly different location.
I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about the resident that came and said that we've taken away signs and that light poles and stop signs are getting hit. And I think he's talking about this 64 in Wells Park.
Talking about right there? It's that intersection also. The 6400 West and Wellesley end up, where the Wellesley curve ends. Trucks come up to either.
Oh, okay. I stepped out when he got up to talk, so I apologize. I was out of the room. But I've got a slide at his intersection. If you advance 1, 2, oh, back one. Okay, this is the intersection of 64th West and Wells Park Road. And we did add some no truck signs right here and no parking signs because we had a complaint that trucks were parking next to the residences. So that was at this location. That's looking
And do
west.
we think the signs are still there?
I believe the signs were changed.
Okay. That
So-
we took them down?
We made it a no truck. There's
No
a
truck parking?
No truck and no truck parking until that road connects to the west. So in the future, when it connects, it will be a truck route.
Okay.
But I think that an issue is trucks were going down to this street thinking it's a through street and then turning around in the neighborhood. And we just can't have that until that road connects to something. We don't want trucks going down there at all, at any time until it connects. So yeah, that is an issue.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Chair McConaughey. Can you go back to the first slide with the map? What is the purple box that's right there next to the Ivory Homes?
That's nothing.
Okay,
That's
it's
just
just
a
there.
purple box.
Okay. So my first thought is, if we do open this up where it takes 67th and connects to 66th, is it does take the truck traffic off of 64th. My one concern though is that, once again, here's a road that probably should have gone straight. And I think we've all said this before is, unfortunately, whoever let this zoning happen shouldn't have let this island of homes be out in an industrial area. But they're there now.
Yep.
So we need to respect that the citizens are there, they have their homes, they're nice homes, it's a nice neighborhood. And I want to make sure that even if it's 40 years from now, that these people with their homes aren't having to deal with big rigs and trucks driving by their homes all hours of the night. Now I know, looking at the line there, it looks like if we went straight, instead of making this quick turn, it'd go straight through the Jones property and Hula as well, correct? So,
Right, we could make this come up here like that, you know,
I mean, in
that's
theory,
not a problem.
which we can't talk about right now, it would have been nice if we could have just gone straight through, which would have cut Jones and Hula in half, rather than having these awkward turning, not straight streets out on the west side. So all I would ask, and I don't know when this road's going to go through, whether it's 10, 20 years from now, but just that we respect that even though those homes are near industrial parks, that we make sure that those roads are built and that some kind of buffer is made so that people aren't having to deal with trucks and large rigs going by their homes at all hours of the night. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay,
Councilmember Green.
So are we talking about, let me make sure I push the right button. Is 6400 South or 6400 West going to go away?
It's not that.
It's not there, right?
so instead of having 2 roads, we're gonna have 1.
Right. So when you show the intersection of 6400 and well, that one picture you had,
Yeah, right there.
that's what we're talking about, is that intersection right there now.
Yeah, that'll stay as it is today.
I just want to make sure I am oriented right and know what I'm looking at. And I agree with Councilman Lamb. Whoever decided to put that neighborhood out there had just immediately moved from California. Never mind.
So clarifying question is, we're looking at what's on here right now. We've got the dotted lines on 6700 West and kind of a continuation of Wells Park Road and then also 6400 West. Is that to signify something that's currently on the transportation master plan right now?
Right, that was approved in 2015, and the proposal today is to, instead of those 2 roads, just do 1 in their place at 66 West.
What's with the dotted line going through the neighborhood? Continuing 64, kind of cutting through.
So that's actually the master plan road, so I guess you could say we're not gonna build that road through the neighborhood if you wanna be really particular.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Baranowski? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion and potentially a motion. Councilmember Whitelock.
So I'm not in love with this road proposal and wonder why did they do, why, the purple represents something, or it wouldn't be there. And why is this road going that way? Why does it not go straight and then up on 67? Why are we creating this road that goes kind of diagonally? As it sits, I'm not inclined to say yes, because I think it creates a weird corner.
Councilmember Green.
Well, I'm going to take a shot at this, but it seems to me that what we're trying to do is our master plan's got 6400 and got 6700, and what we're trying to do is allow whoever Hula is and whoever Vast is, we're trying to avoid having a road split 2 different properties with 2 different developments. And so, and going through the Jones property, that's a different story. But I mean, it would make sense to have 6700 go straight north and not do that goofy diagonal. But if we're trying to maintain some integrity for the developers that are going to look at Hula, they don't need to know. I'm sure, knowing, I mean, I can tell you from a place that I work at, Draper City'd love to have a road through the middle of our property where I work. And given the way that it just becomes untenable to have, a road go through a middle of if you're trying to build a campus, It becomes untenable to have a campus with for a lot of companies. If that were, I mean, you think about Amazon and the size of the building that sits on that. I don't know what kinds of complex we're looking at here, but I can see that depending on the size of the building, they can't have a road there. And, 6400 West doesn't make a whole lot of sense. By the way, I can tell you why I was confused is this is 6400 West and this is 6400 West and they don't line up, and it's like, okay, now I know why I was confused. So that's my thoughts for now, is that, I mean, I agree with you that diagonal is kind of funky. I think what creates this funky diagonal is actually the neighborhood that somehow we allowed a few years ago. That just doesn't make sense there, but maybe someday it will with this. Is this part, so anybody familiar, is this piece of property part of Jones Ranch? Is this part of Jones Ranch, or is that a different Jones?
Is there any opposition from the council
No.
Okay. Mr. Jones, please.
I would just like to say that concerning that diagonal, I would ask the council that they not approve that right now. I'm currently working with a developer, and what we would like to do is kind of see how they were able to get things lined up. When the city talked to me about that, I was fine with the way they had approached it, going through VAST and Hula, and going through us over to where the homes are. But I didn't have any idea that they were going to connect 6800 West with 6600 West. And so I would just ask that until we have a project come up and we know what's going to happen there, that part of it not be approved.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Jones. I'll make a couple comments real quick and sneak in the line. My concern with this is, well, and just to clarify, Mr. Baranowski, 6700, as I'm looking on Google Maps, it doesn't look like 6700 West north of New Bingham exists yet. That's just a blue line. There's nothing actually constructed at this point, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my concern as I'm looking at this is, again, I'm thinking about the neighborhood that's right there. I don't like the idea of heavy trucks going down 6600 West right up next to that neighborhood and then kind of heading off to the west. I worry about that intersection, especially late at night. I would prefer to see 6700 West go straight through all the way rather than 6600. And as I'm looking at this, we do have 6700 West on this master plan going all the way, so the property owners should have been aware about that before the purchase occurred. But at the same time, if we've also got the master plan saying that we're going to build through an existing neighborhood, I question the confidence in the plan. So that's kind of what's running through my mind right now. Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chair. I echo your sentiments. They're exactly what I was going to say. It seems out of character with grid planning to have these windy roads when it might be just as viable to have Wells Park Road continue down to 6700 West and then have 6700 West be the street. I totally understand it. It's that conundrum of transportation standpoint. It seems like that would make more sense with the growing number of vehicles that would be on the roads, and they would be easier intersections than winding around. But then you bring up the great point of property division from that standpoint. But as we've just heard from Mr. Jones, if I'm understanding correctly, it would actually be preferable to not have that windy road. And I think it just makes it easier on finding coordinates and traveling when you're going straight instead of winding around. for instance, over on 7800 South right now, where we've done the road reconfiguration. Again, I'm grateful that we have the candlesticks up to help, but the more windy roads you have, especially late at night, you've got rain or snow, hard to see the lines, and to me, it just makes more sense to have Wells Park Road continue down to 6700 West and have 6700 West be the roadway. From the information that I presently have, trying to predict the future in 2040.
Councilmember Green.
If we use the current master plan, that means we're talking about putting 2 roads in. 6700 West and 6400 West, because we think we need it. Now, Vast may be doesn't need access, but the traffic with whatever Vast ends up being, I guess the question comes up, do we actually need to have, in the context of this, do we actually need to have a north-south road even going through there? I mean, if Wells Park Road goes west and it dead ends at Jones Park, or it ends at the Jones Park property now, it's not like they're landlocked. The 102nd South, Old Bingham Highway, is on the other side, so they've got 2 entrances. The Hula has got great frontage on 102nd and our Old Bingham Highway. And it looks like we want to put a road 9800 South through there. But my question is, do we actually need those? Do we actually need this road? And maybe we do need 9800 South for the Jones property, but for this piece of property, do we actually really need a road to go through there? I don't. Bill, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'd have to disagree that these roads are not needed, and that they are needed very much. If we don't build this a north-south road in this area, then all that traffic is forced to go on other streets, and you might even have more traffic on Prosperity Road and Highway 111. And by having these alternative routes, these collector roads through the area, we're actually able to move more local traffic where that other traffic is more regional traffic. And I have Dave Murphy here to explain some of the reasons why 66 West is the preferred road location.
Mr. Murphy.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Council. Sorry to jump in here, and I've been jumping around back here. Sorry about that. You need to know and be aware that presently 9800 South, because of Amazon, has utilities running down the 9800 South alignment all the way to 6600 West, the proposed road, in an alignment that goes from the intersection at the T intersection at 66th and 98th north to New Bingham Highway with sewer and storm drain lines. And we have easement for that that's been dedicated as part of the Amazon project from the Jones family, so that we can place those utilities all the way to New Bingham Highway. Normally, we would place those utilities inside roadways, and so a roadway over the top of those utilities becomes a key element in the future if this road alignment is adopted. And we have properties, as you are well aware, against New Bingham Highway here with the 2 water reservoirs and with a detention pond that's under design right now next to New Bingham, just north of that box that you see on the map. So you need to be aware of all those conditions presently in the field, because utilities typically do go in roads. Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chair McConney. Councilmember Connie. Just my thoughts, and I'm one of 100,000 residents in this city, and I'm never gonna live out in this area, but the way I see it is, if we put in a road, they will come. And if you put in that road, whoever works at Amazon, whoever works at Hula, that road will be used as a cut through to get to New Bingham Highway. At this point, without a road, they have to go two directions. They have to go to Highway 111, or they go out to Mountain View Corridor, which is the main corridors here. So at this point, I'm gonna say I don't see a need to even talk about this road until we find out what's gonna go on with Jones Ranch, and then also see what Hula's gonna do as well, because if I'm a resident of the Ivory Homes out there, I don't want people cutting through these side roads to get to New Bingham when they could take the larger roads out to Mountain View Corridor and Highway 111 as well. So at this time, I would say, sounds like a good idea. Obviously, we didn't follow the old plan, which would have been better. But at this time, I would say, I'm not sure that we need to even worry about this at this time. Thanks.
Any other discussion from the council? Or Councilmember Whitelock?
So I guess where I'm at is, I'm okay if we don't build 67, and I'm okay if we don't build 64. I'm just concerned about the current proposed road. And I get that we want to protect utilities, that is a swaying point, but for right now, I think there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm okay if we don't build those roads. They're on our plan, but I'm okay if we don't build them.
And as I'm looking at this, the only thing that really sticks with me is I'm okay if we don't proceed with 6400 West. It doesn't sound like that one's needed, but that being said, I'm listening to the comments. I'm not so sure that there's support to pass something at this point in time. So is there a motion that the council would like to make, and then staff can have further discussion and bring something different back to council? Or how would the council like to proceed? Seeing no motion, I think it's safe to say this item is unresolved, and we will let staff review, and if further information, further education is needed by the council, fantastic. Or if there's a new plan, we can look at that as well.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
I'll make
Councilmember Green.
a motion that we deny Resolution 2013 adopting the city transportation master plan map with changes to those roads, and send it back to staff for further review.
Second for
Councilmember
discussion. Oh, sorry.
No, thank you. Motion to deny by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Lamb. I'll jump in with my discussion first. Council's welcome to jump in on seconds a little bit quicker. I was ready to kill that for lack of a second, so feel free to speak up. Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Are we at discussion to the motion right now?
Motion.
Thank you. I'd like to add some specificity as to what we're asking the staff to do instead of just denying it and say, hey, go look at it, because we've had a pretty lengthy conversation. So if we could condense our concerns, maybe that might be more efficient for them in direction. I mentioned mine that I like the 90-degree angle streets better than the 45-degree angle windy ones. I concur with you, Chair, on not having 6400 West, but it makes sense to me to have Wells Park Road go down to 6700 West and then build 6700 West, if that's condensed enough for my remarks. Thank you, Chair.
Quick question for Mr. Wall. With application for a change in land use that requires a one-year waiting period, but this is not in the same line, so staff could, in theory, come back with something next meeting that updates this, even if there is a denial of this, correct?
That's correct.
All right, seeing no other comments, we'll turn to Mr. Anderson for a vote.
Okay, and it's to deny Resolution 2013. Councilmember Green?
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Whitelock?
Yes.
Chair McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next item is Resolution 20-14, which is reestablishing the General Plan Committee. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Green for a quick introduction of this one.
As you've seen in your packet, the last major update of the general plan was in 2012. We know the city's undergone some substantial changes and things like what we see tonight that need major revisions to the general plan that need to be updated. There have been several minor revisions to the plan, but no comprehensive updates. I think there have been city council members who have expressed an interest in reevaluating and updating the general plan and the future land use map, and have requested that a resolution be adopted to reestablish the general plan committee and appoint the committee. This particular resolution just so that to remind everybody, with the change of city government, the general plan committee belongs to us now under West Jordan Municipal Code. Sorry, Mayor. And so what we would do is then, once we pass this, if we pass this resolution, then we would begin the process of selecting people to serve on that committee and begin updating the general plan at our direction with details to be, I know we've got some further details that we've got to work out, but this resolution would start the process so that we can start to get the plan together, get the committee together, get the mayor to assign one of the members of the planning commission to it, and see if we can't do some of the things that we want to do with updating a plan and start to give us something to work on.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chairman. Another reason why I like the General Plan Committee is it gives citizens an opportunity to get involved. Of course, we have many other volunteer committees, but just speaking from personal experience, really one of the reasons that I'm here is because when Councilmember Melissa Johnson was serving on council, she appointed me to serve on the General Plan Committee. That was back in 2009. That was supposed to last 1 year. And then 3 years later, we finished it up because it took quite a while. And so if memory serves me correctly, I believe that City Council adopted the general plan in December of 2011. And so I was an advocate of putting a 2012 date on it so that it reflected, hey, going forward, this is what we're doing. So really, when you think about it, that this started clear back in 2009, so it's a little bit dated. I'm certainly not saying it's outdated by any means in terms of a document that we really should be following when we're looking at making any proposed changes. But I would be a proponent of doing it for many reasons, because times do change, and so we want to update it for the city, but it also allows people an opportunity to, like I'm here a decade later, it would probably be an opportunity for people to get involved who might be future leaders on the planning commission or city council, or a lot of times that committee is where you do get people involved at their first level of city involvement. Thank you.
Councilmember Whitelock.
I'm in favor. I just have a couple of wonderments, like will they apply? And since we're kind of two branches of government now, how is that going to work? What is it going to look like? How many are going to be on this committee? Who's going to make those decisions? So I'm in favor. I just want to know a few details, I guess.
Councilmember Green, would you like to respond apparently?
Well, we can go up to 15. The ordinance, this one's actually in the resolution. It has to be an odd number of voting members, not to exceed 15, with one member of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission serves for a year. one or more of us, not to exceed three, can be appointed as liaisons to the general plan committee. And I think what we would actually have to do is, after we pass the resolution to say we can establish it, I think we're just gonna have to figure out internally how we're gonna ask for, I think we're gonna have to determine, okay, I'm gonna throw Alan Anderson under the bus here, but we're gonna have to determine how Alan gets the applications and helps us determine who we're gonna appoint to the general plan committee. Was that terrible, Alan?
Councilmember Whitelock.
I think it might be something that we want to ask the mayor if he would allow his staff to help us get the word out as well.
Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you.
Let's have the mayor's.
The mayor's light wasn't lit up. Councilmember Pack.
Well, thank you. Instead of reinventing the wheel, maybe we could use what's already in place. I know that there are ads in the West Jordan Journal and on the city website that say, hey, we need volunteers in different capacities, and this is one of them. I know some things have changed in the way volunteers are appointed and by whom they're appointed, but if it seems like that's a pretty productive way to get the word out. And then we could have applications submitted to Mr. Anderson, and then we could have interviews and make sure that we're having citizens from all quadrants of the city.
My thought is that this is a multi-step process. First step is allowing us by resolution to start the committee, and then one of our workshops or work sessions, as soon as we've got a couple spots slated in there, but use that to discuss how we want to exactly see this move forward. We have to give precise direction to the committee as to what we want. We can decide who's going to be engaged with them, but really the first step is to allow us or reinstate by resolution this committee. So I would look to the council for a motion to approve resolution 20-14. Councilmember Whitelock.
I move we approve resolution 20-14 concerning reestablishment of general plan committee and appointment of committee members.
Councilmember Worthen.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Whitelock, second by Councilmember Worthen. Any discussion to the motion from the council? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Chair McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, the remaining items that we have tonight are for work session. Before that, we do have remarks. We'll start with Councilmember Lamb.
I'm just wondering if we want to do a break after remarks and then do the work session?
After remarks, I was going to bring up that and one other item as well. If there are no remarks, I agree a short break would be appropriate. I want to check with the council. Do you want to continue here, or would you like to move back to the other room for the work session? If we move back to the other room for the work session, it will take about 15 minutes or so to get everything up and running. Seems like the consensus is to continue on here. Okay, is there a motion for a short recess? Councilmember Whitelock.
I move that we take a 5-minute recess.
Councilmember Worthen.
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
no attorney would take it.
And it has been 5 minutes since we started our break.
To file a lawsuit like that, I'd want to entertain it.
So as soon as we get one more council member on the dais, we can proceed with the 4. All right, and we will reconvene and we will pick up on the work session item that we last left off on regarding potential concepts for Ronwood Park. And Brian, Dave, are you going to be speaking to this one? All right, you're up.
Okay, thank you, council, mayor. And where we left off.
Sorry, pause just for a second.
Pause.
Alan, could you open up all the microphones since we're back in committee of the whole mode?
Yes. I will get it taken care of.
I'll get one in a minute.
Who left him without a babysitter? All right.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
Dave.
where we left off with the park was basically comments and feedback. And Councilmember Green, you definitely need to, give us what you're feeling and what you want to see as far as some of those concepts. So what we're after for being able to roll forward the design work is a good feel for either concept 1 or concept 2, or a blend of some of the elements in each of those concepts that's clear direction. Whether or not we want to do anything with the parking lot size and or location. Number of pickleball courts. There's been talk of going beyond 6, which is what's planned. And whether or not the action center or skateboard park per se, whether that moves forward in this concept, in this phase or later phases, would be very helpful from a design aspect.
And the questions I heard from the council, number 1, total budget. We saw the numbers that they associated with it. How much and where is that funding coming from? How much of it do we already have, and what's going to have to be acquired or accumulated along the way? And then as they started talking about phasing, what the different options were there. And I think those were the big items from the council I picked up on. So before we start getting into the other items, can you fill us in on budget, funding, what's available, where it's coming from?
Yes,
And
correct.
also want to double check, the sign says we'll return in a moment. Are we broadcasting? All right, Dave, continue, please.
Okay. The budget right now is $3 million. It's all coming from impact fees, and those impact fees can be slated for any park like Ronwood Park or other parks that you have on your Parks Master Plan. So presently, it's been allocated at $3 million, and the design fees right now are taking approximately 100,000 of that, plus maybe 200.
And those impact fees are outside of the regular budget. They're funds that can only be used for this.
For parks.
And what's the expiration date? I know it's 7 years, but it seems like it's been about 6, 7 years.
It's 6. And we are continuously rolling over those funds.
Okay, so there's no immediate urgency that if we don't do something in the next 3 months, we're going to be losing funds.
No, you probably have a couple of years on that.
Okay.
There are further impact fees that will be collected in future years. If you look at your 5-year schedule in the present budget book, it shows another $3 million being accumulated for the 29-acre park site. That's different than this one. But that budget has not been set yet. Priorities can change. You can move that money, but that's just a projection right now. So there is other impact fee money coming in, slated for other park projects, not just this one.
Other questions for Mr. Murphy? Councilmember? Go ahead and just speak up.
Thank you. It was still a little unclear, and I'm not trying to doubt anybody. I'm just trying to understand on the scale, how are we acquiring the demographics of how many participants are projected to be in any given activity? We heard, yes, more pickleball courts, but again, that could be skewed by perhaps a vocal minority, certainly not saying anything disparaging about pickleball, but as was mentioned, you know, the state pickleball representative was there and maybe a lot of people came. So I'm just trying to figure, how do we get an unbiased amount? Do we keep a count of who signs up for West Jordan soccer, tennis, park and rec programs, so that we know, yeah, we do need 2 softball fast pitch fields? I'm just trying to figure out how that's tracked.
So we don't track it for se. Salt Lake County runs our recreation programs for the city. With the Parks Division, we're just the maintenance division of the facilities. And so Salt Lake County does all the rec-based programming, but then there's also a lot of private organizations that use these facilities too. And so for say in soccer, we have about 7 different organizations that use our facilities. In baseball, we used to have 3, now we're down to 2. But basically the one organization was absorbed into the other. And so Salt Lake County does our recreation. We don't really have a gauge on a lot of, you know, those finite numbers, other than the demand that we receive for use in our facilities. Right now, we have organizations that would program our soccer fields for the whole year if they could, but we're trying to kind of share some of the love between all the organizations. But as far as pickleball goes, we don't have any courts in our inventory right now. The amount that we're talking about will get heavy use. Now, when we start talking about building tournament facilities and stuff, we should probably, you know, gather better data on that. So, but as far as the 6 pickleball courts, I have no problem saying that those will get heavily used. It's not going to be to where they're going to sit vacant, especially with it being the most popular sport or fastest growing sport in America right now. So, but we could look into that data, but I just don't have those raw numbers for you, just because we don't run the recreation side of it.
Well, thank you. I just think the more authoritative data we can get, the best decision we can make, especially when we're talking about this much money and different amenities. So thank you.
Mr. Lee, real quick.
We do have some of that data in our updated, we just updated the Parks Master Plan, and we did some surveying work, and that showed our deficits on different recreation offerings relative to demand, service demand as well. So that's helpful, and that's part of what is driving some of the decision making.
As far as concepts go, I lean to concept 1. With like what I said in the other session, is we've got those 2 small youth fields to the north that's got a sidewalk running down the middle. And I think that if we eliminated the sidewalk and we made that, I'm going to assume, plus or minus, that if you added the 2 small fields together with the periphery, you may, north and south, you may be able to actually get almost a full field. And so what I would be looking for there is flexibility, not just for youth soccer, but for the eventuality or on weekends that if that's what youth conference where you know, a Copper Hills team wanted to play or something, that there would be enough football, you know, a Little League football, just for context, the Little League football field is actually 100 yards long because they play on an 80-yard field. So those 100-yard big fields are the right size. So those 2 small ones may be able to be turned into but I would just as soon have as much flexibility and not have it divided up by a sidewalk. There may be a way to run a sidewalk, or, you know, there's one to the west and put one to the east around it and leave the one out of the middle and make it. So what I'm suggesting is that the 2 fields at the north and concept 1 probably ought to look more like what concept 2 does, maybe without quite so many trees there, but more of a concept of what's on the northeast, the northeast corner of concept 2 there in concept 1, as far as pickleball courts go, I'm okay with 6. So, I don't know about anybody else. I gotta figure out what the rules are for pickleball. I never could figure out tennis, let alone anything else.
And you can put pickleball lines on tennis courts too, and tennis courts actually have 3 different sizes that are used for youth programs where you can have shadow lines on there. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, and I agree, Councilmember Green, it seems easier to have a big field and then you could divide it up. It's harder to put 2 small fields together. I think of the equestrian park out in South Jordan. I've gone to many ultimate frisbee tournaments there, and the field's so big they're able to rope off 7 different fields for ultimate frisbee. So yeah, it's easier to take a big field and make a couple of small ones if we eliminate that walkway. Thank you.
When I'm looking at this, when I look at the numbers, I mean, just to have, just to have the north grass basically is almost 3 million. So I'm wondering if we're trying to start this a little bit too soon, if all we have is a little less than 3 million. So I guess I'm curious as to what you want out of us, because I don't think 3 million is really enough to start this, because we can't even do one section of it. Like, we'll get grass.
We can come back to you, if we can get a clarity between concept 1 and 2, we can bring back to you the refined design, and that will have the refined cost estimates, so we'll know exactly where to make the dividing line between green space or amenities or parking lot at that point.
Okay.
So so I'd kind of like to take this a piece at a time and say maybe a straw poll here, concept 1 versus concept 2 with some friendly amendments like Councilmember Green gave us for, concept 1, that'd be great.
And I like concept 1, and as I said in the other room, I want whenever we are able to do this, I want to be able to include the skate park, because I know there are many in our community that want a skate park. So that's where I'm at.
So do either one of these concepts, because I don't see it on the concept summary, do either one of these concepts include tennis court?
No, because you already have one out there.
Okay, so what's the area immediately to the west? Is that a parking? Immediately to the west of the pickleball courts?
That is existing tennis courts.
Okay. Okay.
And then you have playground right beside of that.
So in concept, if we want to, as I can't get this right, as Councilmember Pack suggests, tennis courts could be painted as well, and we could actually have a couple extra pickleball courts just because we painted them and used the tennis courts and make it a multi-purpose type facility. And paint's sometimes cheap.
If I might sound in on this, that is true, and we have done that to some courts, but those who really play pickleball will complain about that and don't like to use those because you have to make adjustments to the net compared to what it is for tennis as well, and then it doesn't accommodate quite the
I
same.
can say that they do it in our neighborhood. Mayor.
That's true.
They do use our tennis court back there. I
They
watch
do,
them all
and
the time.
that's one of them I was talking about, that
Oh,
we
yeah.
had painted so they could do it for that, and that's how I
So-
learned about the net.
I agree. I like concept 1, and this is going to be way in the future, but once you're getting to a certain point where you're at, and I would really like to talk about bringing the community into doing some things, like we did out in the Sycamores when we helped build those parks, and we put up some of the structures, did trees, laid grass, put in, I know that might seem small, but it actually helps the community and the neighborhood take some ownership. They're really proud of being able to be part of that. It's probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life, being part of that. We had over 800 volunteers building those parks and cleaning up those neighborhoods. So as we're moving forward and getting more towards the end, I realize there's only certain things that citizens can do, but definitely would love to bring them in to help them take some of that labor off of our parks people as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I lean towards number one. I already shared my concern about having the youth field right next to the skate park. I prefer that portion being kind of open, like Councilmember Green suggested, maybe just getting rid of the sidewalk and anticipating that as more of just passive green space or for people to do whatever. The other thing that I would suggest is also something Councilmember Green hit on, rather than planning these specifically with soccer. I mean, want to make sure we can use it for that. But we also hear a lot from folks about football or lacrosse or rugby. Having a space big enough that we could accommodate one of those. It does say multi-use, but if we do have that sidewalk running across, cutting across in the middle, does that prohibit us from being able to do Little League football? Or does that prohibit us from having a good size field for lacrosse or rugby? I just want to be careful that we really can use as many uses as possible.
And I think Councilmember McConaughey is right, and that's why I asked in the other meeting what the dimensions of the fields are. We know that Little League soccer or Little League football is 100 yards, but you know, I'm not a rugby player, but if somebody wanted to use it for rugby, maybe it needs to be the full 100. We need to look at the flexibility of the space so that even a couple of these the bigger multi-fields, maybe the sidewalk in the middle goes away, and so that you have a good space north and south that you can make 100, you know, or even just somebody who wants to play full-size an adult soccer league that's going to be a full 100 yards, and you need some perimeter. So it's just something to look at, to maybe look at what Councilmember McConaughey said with lacrosse and rugby, and not just focus in on the fact that a soccer field's 110 or 100 yards. Maybe we need 120 yards, and does that mean shifting sidewalks or pulling the sidewalk out of the middle of the three big fields on that one, and just having the grass that we can, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. The larger fields, the dimensions is 330 by 225.
330 by 225?
So if that's helpful. And we'll take all those comments under consideration on the concrete versus non-concrete, basically, as far as the width and the use. Okay, so concept one sounds good. All the way across. Any dissents to that idea? Okay. So parking location and size. I'm going to offer an opinion here, and it's just an opinion. You don't have to take it. But when the recreation center goes in, that is your overflow parking for all of this. And the recreation center will have ebbs and flows and high use times and not. And you will have other amenities over on that side as well that are going to be very highly used. And in fact, if you wanted tournament pickleball, there might be enough space over there to make that happen. So keep that in mind here, because there's a lot of parking behind the rec center. So I would say right now what is planned, either concept, definitely along 8600 South, hold that line and, you know, use what's been shown here for now.
Access from 8600 South, not on 8600 South, right?
Not on 8600 South.
Thank you.
I do not suggest that at all. It's a collector road and it will be very busy.
Thank you.
That's why we put the parking lot tucked into the park on that side. Okay, so, and then pickleball, I heard 6. I'll stop there. Everyone okay with 6?
Unless we can fit more.
So long as it doesn't decrease the area for the skate park already, it's proposed to be an average size of average ability.
Okay.
Not saying that we have the money to make it, you know, the flagship skate park in the United States, but it'd be nice to have something that people would come to, not only in our city, but from surrounding areas.
And then the action park, skateboard park, now or later? This phase or other phases? That's kind of a...
I would say now.
1, 2, how many? Aye. 1, 2.
How many opposed?
If we have the money.
If we have the money, do it now, okay.
So council, just for clarification of the money we have in park impact fees right now, what I'm understanding is you're okay with us getting started on the pickleball courts and the skate park now?
Right, because the proposed budget for the skate park is $1 million, right? And then
That would
pickleball
delay,
was,
that would delay the build out of the fields.
I guess the reason I'm looking at it that way is if we're saying that the proposed whole park is gonna be $7-8 million, you know, let's do the things that we have the money for right now so that we don't delay. And if I'm understanding correctly, it's, you know, instead of building something that's 4 million, shouldn't we do some things that are within the budget for this year? And I'm thinking, isn't that pickleball and skate park, if we're trying to put in the fields, that's, you know, we're gonna be over budget on that. Am I right?
Ultimately correct, yes. But we need to look at future forecasts too and what other parks are planned. So. That's all I need.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, workshop item, where did it go? Discussion of the PCFB zone text amendments, courtesy of Larry Gardner. So we've had a couple of conversations on this one as a council already. It's being brought back. I believe everybody received the updates. It looks like Larry was able to incorporate the comments that were made previously. Are there any questions about what's been provided or any additional changes that are needed to this?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I still lean towards, I think we should have some kind of a ratio between how much residential to the commercial, because I worry that basically in 3 heard of proposals, that will take up pretty much all of our undeveloped land. And what I hear over and over and over is, on the west side, there's nothing. We need more stuff, places to shop, places to eat, places to work. And if we don't have some kind of a stopgap in this, then we might end up with all residential, and then we'll all be coming down by Chad's house, and he's not gonna like that, so. You do too, you have Gardner Village. Yeah, you do.
So, he's sitting back there in the cheap seats. Rich, is it all right if I'm gonna ask to suspend the rules so we can ask.
We can invite whomever we'd like.
So, I guess my question directly to you is, given what you did in Daybreak in South Jordan, given what your concepts are in over there in the Woods Ranch, can you address council member how much commercial are you going to put in, and is there a standard industry ratio for commercial?
The way we approach this is we're doing placemaking, and it revolves around centers. And just to go back to Daybreak, for example, as an example. Daybreak has, I guess, a little less than 4 million square feet of commercial, retail, various things in it now. That has taken 15 years to get there, and it has taken a long time. Daybreak actually built a grocery store, which for the past 10 years has just been basically underutilized as space for Black Diamond Gymnastics, because retailers require a certain amount of critical mass within certain radii to make it work. I mean, we're placemakers. We're going to build the stuff, and we'll probably own it longer than we want to when we get around to doing the mixed use. But the way Woods Ranch is being approached, we are deliberately starting the center of the project, the initial amenities. I don't know if I could even show you on a map. I'm getting way out of sequence here. But here, to kind of, can you put it on slideshow? Well, there you go. Okay, this is what we call the community concept plan. And if you look at it, Our first phase is going to be in the interior of the property, right here. And we're going to be working outwards so that by 2025, we'll be out in the area where some commercial and retail might make sense. And that's when we hope to start doing some mixed use in that area. Because by then, we will have our signalized intersection here. We'll be hopefully close to getting the second signalized intersection here. And there may be enough housetops in here to at least give somebody some hope that retail might survive on the ground floor of some mixed use. But it's not something that there's a ratio. What you're trying to do in a community like this is provide community-serving retail and uses. We're going to have some initial uses that the HOA owns right in here. It's going to be an outfitter. It's going to be a cafe and some various other things just to create a central core for a neighborhood. But to pretend that you can actually justify full-scale retail out here in the short term, I don't know. Maybe a gas station and some surrounding uses, 24, 25-ish time frame. But there is, at this point, while that's our goal, is to create these things as part of a center, I don't see it short term as something we can require.
And I totally agree with him. I totally agree that right now, we probably can't do the commercial. My concern is, if we allow all of the land to be built in residential, then where will the commercial go when you have the rooftops? My fear is we won't have the land for the commercial.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things where I'm going to say, please trust me. Look at Daybreak. Daybreak is probably the only place along the Mountain View corridor where a developer who could sell residential land all day long hasn't done so. We've preserved that whole area around the Mountain View corridor, particularly the downtown Daybreak section, as vacant open space for 15 years, knowing that sooner or later it will come and we'll be able to do it there. It would have been a lot easier and better for our internal rate of return to have sold that off for residential a long time ago. That's why most of Mountain View is residential up and down right now.
But right now, we're not discussing your project. We're discussing a planned community form-based zone that will become our code that will affect all of our undeveloped land. Correct, Larry? Isn't that what we're discussing right now? And I know it affects it, but still, that's what we're discussing.
It's a tool, but it still has to meet the criteria before the property can be zoned the PCFB. So it is, no, not all of the 1,800 acres will be under this zone, no, that's not.
Well, we don't know that. It
Well,
could be.
people, but that would be up to you, because that's where you have the control, is whether you zone it, if this ordinance is approved, whether you zone it to the PCFB zone. You still have that control. The control is with the council on all of the land use map amendment decisions, the zoning map decisions. That's a legislative act, so it's ultimately in your hands, so.
So my question for Mr. Wall, going back to kind of what Larry said, this is creation of new zone. We can apply where appropriate. But to Councilmember Whitelock's question, would we be able to use the development agreement to encapsulate some of what she's suggesting, saying, yes, we can give you the form-based zone, but here are additional requirements that are captured in that development agreement. And in that document, we could say, here's where we're requiring a certain percentage of different uses.
If it doesn't already read that way, we can make it read that way. And I would defer to Mr.
No, it reads that way already.
It is not uncommon in these PCFB zones to then require in the development agreement an actual entitlement list. And in fact, if you look in the, referring back to the Daybreak, South Jordan Daybreak, there's actually a table that shows the amount of commercial, industrial, residential square footage that they're entitled to.
And that's in the development agreement?
That's in the development agreement.
Councilmember Lamb, did you have something?
Or, Mr. Chair, or it could be, it could be in the master development plan also. There's nothing necessarily sacred about where it goes. It could go either place. It happens to be in the MDA in the prior project.
So with that, are there additional comments or proposed changes to what's been presented to us? Or does this look like it's ready to come back to the council as a business item for ratification
Or a public hearing.
or public hearing? That's part of the ratification process.
Let's set this for public.
All right,
I say let's set this for public hearing for March 11th and move on. I think we're close.
okay, there you go. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just one other piece of information. Excuse me, we have retained a consultant to be a second set of eyes to do some peer review on this and on the master development agreement for the Wood Ranch parcel. And we're going to be meeting with them tomorrow to go over what we've done so far. I've done several projects for other cities like this doing the peer review. Because of my time restraints here, I can't give it the time I need, so we've retained someone else to help us with that. We may have some additional changes to the PCFB zone based upon those recommendations. We'll make those available to you as soon as we get them, if there are any. I think it's okay to go ahead and set it for March 11th preliminarily, and then we'll let you know if we've got to postpone it.
Thank you, and we appreciate the additional review. If there's anything that is materially changes the direction the council's trying to go with this, then it might be best to come back in a workshop so that we're not trying to change verbiage or wordsmith from the dais. But if it's nothing that materially differs from the course that the council's going, I think we could still bring this back for public hearing.
We'll keep you and the council office advised.
And again, I want to say thank you to, where did Larry go? Right there, smack in the middle. I want to say thank you to Larry for making sure that this got out to us repeatedly and early so that we could share our comments. And thank you, as Councilmember Whitelock was so good about documenting the different things that came up. Thank you for being responsive and incorporating that. Okay, next item, Ray McCandless, the Woods Ranch. Looks like we're talking development agreement this time. Or development narrative, excuse me.
So, as you recall, about a month ago, we held another public hearing on this. I mean, not a public hearing, but a work session on this topic. Based on that conversation, that discussion, the applicant's gone back and made some revisions or some corrections to the master development plan. The developer's here, and I think he's got a couple of slides that he may want to go through to kind of talk about the issues that were brought up at that point. So I think in the interest of time, if you'd like, and we can either get into that or directly into the questions.
Yeah, two things. I'm going to take personal privilege real quick. My little 4-year-old boy apparently is at home watching instead of going to bed. Ollie, I love you, but please listen to Mama and go to bed. And I'd be interested to hear. I'd also like to hear some of the specific concerns that were brought up last time. I think the one that we heard over and over and over again was street width. So before getting too far into the slides and presentation, if you could address that, because I know nobody's going to hear another word until that issue from last time's resolved.
Now, I don't know what the latest information that you received, but we did get some additional information from the applicant, and what it shows is, I think one of the main concerns with the street widths was making sure that the emergency vehicles can get in and out. The fire department's minimum requirement is to have 20 feet free and clear. And the diagrams that we had just received shows a 20-foot clearance on all, I believe all the streets, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich. It's that, but I think the alleys, not the alleys, but the lanes are still shown at 16 feet with 2 feet on each side of that. But the fire access, I think, would still need to meet fire department requirements. So that's kind of that's one of the big points that has been addressed since we met last. Okay. Something else?
This isn't for the applicant, this is just for staff. when you, and I thank Larry and whoever the other guy was that did the maps, Larry. I thank him and his staff for getting me larger ones, but when things come in our packets that we can't read, that's really hard. And, you know, I can't read this. I can't read well, now I can. I can read this now. But just for staff, if you're preparing these for us, if you could make them so that we can read them, that would be super.
Do those come in to you on a PDF, or is it paper copy, or is it both?
We get them electronically, and then some things I ask for to be printed.
Okay.
And those I asked for a printed copy, and when I got them, it was like, oh, I still can't read this. So but yes, it was a PDF, and therefore it wouldn't print out on the plot printer as well.
Yeah, it's large
they're
scale,
scanned
like
into
18 by
PDF.
11, that's been scanned down to 8.5 by 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 17 and 18, the design guidelines matrix,
The matrix, yeah.
might as well done left out.
Okay.
Yes, they're printed and scanned. They
Well, and
work.
we do have, just so you know, we do have that on a PDF here, and we can enlarge that on the screen if
So-
you need to talk details.
I think Alan's working on this, but as we move forward, for council packets, there's a difference between what Laserfish needs and what we can, I'd suggest just give us the PDF documents and let's not worry about, you know, and combine those in Adobe, and we don't have, and if it's big and small, we can fight with that easier than the scanned document, but that's something I think we can work with Alan on. I think the difficulty is right now is that we're using some software that's got some capabilities that we're not sure how to use, so we're scanning everything to upload it for the document management that Alan's trying to figure out how to not scan it. So that I think as we advance with the technology, some of that's gonna get fixed.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, we're just old. Eyes don't work so well. Just put them on poster boards.
I'll have to do that with my PDFs.
You're speaking for the entire council.
Oh, you'll be there.
Speak for
Just wait.
yourself, Melissa.
Well, and I am.
Resemble that remark.
That's right.
All right, so what are you looking for from us on this one?
I think what we're looking for is direction on where you'd like to take it, given where we've just been with the new code, and kind of the timing on when you'd like this to be scheduled for a public hearing, if all your concerns have been addressed.
On this one, I think I'm more comfortable with the PCFB at this point. This is just speaking for myself. This one, I would definitely like to get feedback from the outside council as to their thoughts on this.
Well, and Mr. Chair, if I could add something else, I would recommend that when, the next step for this is that you have staff review with you, go through the master development agreement and show you what has been addressed based on what you have expressed your concerns to be, so that you can see how it will be addressed. And you haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. Just like you now have had the PCFB zone in front of you for several meetings.
That would be helpful. Some of this it's hard for me to understand what is legally binding versus what is more illustrative in helping set the vision. I mean, as I read things like, we've incorporated into our planning the legacy desires of the Wood family that will inform a rich amenity package that initially would anticipate to include the ranch house, social center, and so on. Does that mean the social center is required by contract, or is this just painting the vision? So separating out what the vision is versus what's contractually required was a little bit tricky for me as I read through this.
Well, and I would say not just what's contractually required, but there's a lot of things. If you put the PCFB zone, the master development plan together, there are a number of things that flow out of that are required. And I think the staff needs to make that clear to you. And then the master development agreement fills in other things that don't flow out of those two.
So since we're in work session right now, I'll just go ahead and ask. As we get to, and this might be answered by the matrix that I couldn't read, Wood Ranch Design Guidelines Matrix and Street Sign Standards, lot dimensions and lot coverage. It states the goal and states the intent, but there are no specifics. Does that really go back to that matrix document for
It
that
does.
one then?
It does.
So really that matrix that wasn't legible is really where we need to be focused on. Okay. Councilmember Green, or Councilmember Whitelock, if you had something.
So I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Wall that we probably ought to go through the master development agreement and know exactly what we're doing. But I would suggest we need to schedule that, like, I know I'm gonna make, Melissa's gonna make me eat my words, but I think we need to do it like fast, like next week. But what I would like to do is get a council consensus to say, if we're meeting to do the master development agreement and we're gonna spend a whole night on this, what I'd like us to do is tonight say that the public hearing for the rezone and the adoption of all that stuff that we're supposed to do, be scheduled for, like we have on the work session goals, the 25th. I think most of us have the buy-in. We've got, and if we, and in fact, what I'm suggesting is we adopt that slide, is that we schedule a meeting solely for the purpose of going over the master development agreement, knowing that that we can notice the public hearing for March 25th, because that's what we're going for, along with also the annexation hearing, because that's just a weird animal in and of itself that I think we can probably, but I don't think that's critical to what we need to do, but I think we need to follow that schedule.
So I'm okay with that schedule if we do it as a work meeting or whatever you want to call it, just not a regular scheduled night, because I think it needs time. But there are a couple of things that I want to bring up in this document that we got for tonight's meeting. Under infrastructure financing, I just want everyone to think if we're really okay with doing a 30-year term for this. It seems like a long time, and people buy and sell homes a lot. I don't know. And then under outdoor furniture, this one gives me a little bit of angst just because it says public artwork can be provocative. So who decides what that artwork is going to be? That just, I just read that and thought, oh, I don't want those phone calls. So other than that, for the most part, I was fine. Those were my questions when I looked at it overall. I'm grateful. I thank the applicant for listening and working with us.
I think we just have Brian pick the public artwork.
In response to the 30-year question, I'm actually in favor of the 30 years. It matches up the term with the life of the infrastructure. If you do it shorter, then, I mean, with stormwater, for example, if you have a stormwater system that's designed to last 50 years, but you try and pay it off in 5 or 10, whoever lives there for 10 years is paying for something that's going to be used for 4 or 5 decades beyond them, so they're paying for somebody else's. So in this sense, I think 30 is okay. We do have to figure out how to communicate with folks, though, because I think the issue that you're getting at with people churning the home or the turnover on the homes is how do we ensure that future buyers understand what they're getting into, and it's not just the mortgage, it's also this impact on their property tax bill. That one I do have a concern with, but I think that's a communication issue rather than the financing mechanism for the development issue.
Denise, oh, I was gonna say, can we get your input on
I'll
that?
be interested to see, because when you actually list a home, you're required to place the HOA fee on there. So I'll be interested, because this is new in Utah, if they'll also require through MLS to add that listing of additional property tax on there. There are times when you have to disclose that kind of information. That would be on an MLS, which would, you know, when you're looking for a home, you'd look at the bottom and go, oh, there's an HOA fee and an additional property tax. But that really hasn't been addressed yet, and I'm not sure what we could require
And it may
as
not-
disclosure
There
for
may
title
not be a
companies.
necessity for the city to require something. There may be other, I know, like what's required by law when you buy and sell a property. I think the council's looking for education as to what's out there, so we can understand if there are safeguards or if we need to create safeguards.
And I am very comfortable with a 30-year bond on that kind of an infrastructure for that exact reason, Councilman McConaughey, is that, that it does need to be shared intergenerationally, and the longer that you can pull out that infrastructure bond, the lower the payment will be for those households, which I think will eliminate some of that stress level.
And then I want to try and be sensitive to the time and relatively quick, but on these bullets that are out here, this actually would have been a great way to start this off, saying at the start of the presentation, we're looking for a council buy-in on this, and this. So we had that in the back of our mind as we were reviewing this document. That would have been helpful to have up front rather than in the slide deck here. But preservation of hillside, landform, and ridgeline open space park. Is this something that the council supports?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, do we need further conversation, or should we just say yes?
Yes. Just say yes.
All right, number 2, public trail system with trailheads and unique amenities. Is there opposition to outdoor recreation and trails? Who is opposed to trails? All right, walkable neighborhoods with private amenities to support higher tax values.
The only thing I want to say on amenities is, again, on parks, I don't want parks that our guys are going to take over to be made of wood.
And I want to be careful with this part too, the private amenities. So many other developments, the developers are given additional density, and kind of in return for the density that they're given, they provide additional amenities to the community, and they should be accessible to the community. So I want to be careful. Obviously, there'll be some amenities that are just for the residents there, but some, like as we talked about, that trail that goes along the foothills, things that are going to be open to the public. So I want to make sure that when it does come to private versus public amenities, those are clearly delineated in the agreement.
Would you like me to go through some of that?
In interest of time, only if council members shake their head the other direction, so I think we're good.
No, because I think
Do you want to hit the?
it's private amenities are like the clubhouse and those kind of swimming pool. So I think I'm okay with that, because they know what they're getting into.
Now, next item, are we okay with the HOA maintaining those private amenities, parks and trails?
Yeah.
Yes. No, we want the
Alright.
rest of the city to pay for it.
And this one, obviously, we brought up the concern with lanes, but city ownership and maintenance of parks, roads, and lanes. I think lanes, we said, not so much.
Well, and this is the one that it'd be nice to delineate more as our conversations progress on what exactly, of course, we are responsible for. That there's the HOA, how much should the HOA be taking care of the parks and roads and lanes? And of course, if they are public, well, then we do have more of an obligation than if it's a private amenity, but I'd like to find out a little bit more about that bullet statement, especially with, our parks department on feasibility of being responsible for the parks and roads and lanes.
So, just make sure I'm not misspeaking. Brian has had a conversation, and we're good? You're putting you right on the spot there, buddy. Okay, on the lanes.
And you're good with the
So,
lanes now?
Council, sorry, that particular bullet point needs a lot more information and a lot more discussion.
So let's pull that
Sorry,
out.
I don't want,
Okay.
there's a lot more to that. And that's where the rubber hits the road in terms of what kind of liability are we gonna take on as a city long-term.
Okay.
thank you. So
Agreed.
it's nice, I think we all feel like the council's heard on that, so we'll skip that one.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I add one more thing? There's actually a conflict there. If you look at number 4 and number 5, or 5 and 6, 5 says the HOA maintains amenities, parks and trails, and 6 says the city owns and maintains parks.
Yeah, four says
There's-
private, private amenities.
I understand, but there's, well, okay. There's some clarity that's not here that you need to have, to Councilmember Pack's point.
So what I heard from the council is we're definitely okay with the HOA maintaining the private amenities. And then for the public, we're gonna have to have some conversation there, as Mr. Lee suggested.
Yeah, and to Rob's point, we just need some definition as to what's the private amenities or private parks versus what's the public parks. So I know there's some of that already. We want to really scrutinize that, just make sure we have a really good comfort level.
Thank you.
I think I think we've got a couple of slides that show the intended public versus private amenities.
We can come back to that one in just a second. I want to hit real quick on support of PID as proposed in master development plan.
I think this is where we actually, like what Mr. Wall suggests, we actually go through the master development plan and go through it in depth, and I think that will solve that problem. But for me, I'm in support of the PID. We just need to make sure that we understand what the master development plan has. So I think that, never mind.
Council, the PID itself still needs a lot more definition, a lot more discussion. We had a brief discussion, a work session about PIDs. We got a little bit of a comfort level from you as to where you're at on that. We need to actually put some things in writing. Make sure you're comfortable with PIDs in general across the whole city. Make sure, you know, at what level, and then specifically at what comfort level you have for PIDs for this particular project. And then give that to Daybreak and say, okay, this is what the council's willing to live with in terms of PIDs.
So I would suggest that we move and put something into next week, so we can have a nice long talk about everything that we need to talk about, or we could be here till 3 a.m.
See, for me, the PID is part, I mean, it's a proposed master plan and it's our support. We're not gonna get to the PID for probably a couple of 3 months. I see a head nodding north and south. The PID is not the important part of the project right now. It's the zone and the master development and going through the master development plan. If we believe in the concept of the PID, I think we can work the details out with that one, and we can look at what the PID is proposed in the master plan. But it goes back again, I think we just need a good chunk of time to go through that master development plan and make sure that we understand the details, because at that point, the devil's in the details. But let's get this done.
So do we want to discuss a date now? Because I would suggest a week from today, just
Well,
because.
What I heard from Mr. Lee is there's still a lot for some of this that needs to be completed. So my question is, what does staff need from us? Is it just time to sit down with us? Are you ready with decisions that need to be made? Is it needing to get direction from council? What exactly is
So-
needed from us?
Here's, let me just tell you how I see it, okay? I think we like Daybreak's concepts. We like the walkability. We like the added amenities. We like the enhanced HOA features, the private amenities. And we really like what Daybreak LLC has done in Daybreak South Jordan. And so we have a desire to work with them and to try to make this happen here. But there's at least 2 big sticking points that I've heard Daybreak LLC say, hey, that's a non-starter for us. And I've not heard the council say, we're meeting them on this. One is the ownership of lanes. Daybreak is told us, hey, we require, our pro forma requires that the city own the lanes. And I've not heard the city council say, yeah, we agree with that. We're not together on that issue yet, is my understanding, and we've got to work through that. Second, PIDs. Daybreak has said, we need PIDs, and we need a PID up to 4 mil and 30 years to make this work in our pro forma. We have not had that level of detail of discussion. A 4 mil PID is a PID that's double the property tax of the city. The city's property tax is 2 mil. We're not yet all together on the same page. So we need some work session time with you, at least on those two issues. And then a lot of work session time on the master development agreement itself after it's been scrutinized by our outside consultant and our staff.
So when are you suggesting that we have this done by? Because we're up against some deadlines for them, and if you're talking 2 or 3 work sessions, now we're into the middle of April. And I know that there's some stuff we've gotta do, but we've gotta get this done.
We could add other night work sessions.
I mean, we've just got to get this done, and I thought we gave enough, this is my personal opinion, I thought we gave enough direction for a PID policy document so that we have that, we can look at the PID and the master development plan. 4 mil is within the statute. It's not the max, but I don't remember what the max is in the statute, but what is it, 15? It's 15. So, I mean, what I'm concerned with is we should, I'm gonna be mean. We should have been dealing with some of these things January 1st, not February 26th. And it just seems like, I'm gonna be blunt, it just seems like we keep trying to study this and talk about it, and we're not making any progress. And I'd like to see us make some progress. And setting the public hearing, honestly, I think that the only way we're gonna get this done is to say we're gonna set the public hearing on the 11th for PCFB and for the master development plan, and that we're gonna set a public hearing and council hearing on the 25th for the master development agreement and the annexation, because if we don't set those deadlines, we're not gonna get anything done, and we're just gonna sit and we're gonna tread water, and we don't have a goal, and without those goals and without that plan, this isn't gonna work. We're not gonna get this done.
And I guess my question is, if those are the things that we need and they're so urgent, we can find additional time to meet, but we're here now, and I thought that's what we were gonna be doing tonight. So if there's another night that we need to come back and do that, then everybody on the council said that they'll try and make an effort to do that, but I mean, could you be ready tomorrow night? Is sometime next week? We talk about needing to get into the detail. What do you need from us? Do you just need us to give you a date saying we can get together on this date, this time, and then will everything be ready? Or do you need direction from us? Do you need decisions from us prior to that?
When will outside counsel?
We're not ready to have the PID discussion, I believe, tonight. We need a little more time internally with staff, and we have a meeting planned for early next week with Daybreak to discuss the PIDs issue individually. The development agreement's clearly not ready to discuss in detail tonight, and will take quite a bit of time. Frankly, I wonder if one work session on the development agreement is enough. You're gonna have, the development agreement, this is a major document that you're gonna wanna spend some time in and go through line by line. It's gonna take some serious time.
We can be ready to go through it with you next Wednesday.
That's what I was gonna ask, when are you gonna be ready? So if you're gonna be ready next Wednesday.
Having said
Next
that,
Wednesday.
it's going to depend on your reaction to the master development plan and the PCFB zone, because if you're comfortable with that and there's nothing more.
We can barely
need
hear
to
you.
If you're comfortable with the PCFB zone and the master development plan, we don't need to do any more work on the master development agreement. But keep in mind, the agreement is to fill in the gaps that the plan and the zone doesn't address. But we can be ready by next Wednesday to go through the master development agreement as we understand it right now. Now, that doesn't address the PID issue to the extent that you need to make some are you ready to vote? You're okay with 4 mil? Are you okay with $50 million and you're okay with 30 years? You gotta make that decision, because the developer deserves that clarity, and you want that clarity before you give them their entitlements. Same thing on the lane issue that Corbin addressed. You need to understand, are you or are you not gonna maintain the lanes? And you gotta definitively tell us that, because they need to know that, we need to know that, because that needs to go into the development agreement. Those are the kind of formal decisions you gotta make.
I'm not anti-lane right now.
So what I'm hearing is you'll be ready for us next Wednesday. Can we,
We can be ready on the development agreement. You need to ask the planning staff and the developer if they'll be ready to go through the PCFB zone and the development plan to show you how that works, to see if you have any other concerns. And I think they're probably ready to do that tonight, but.
Okay, so if council needs to come back together, I know there's some conflicts on Wednesday.
I have one caution too about next Wednesday. I hate to bring this up. Scott Langford is sitting in jury duty starting on Monday, and that may occupy him all week. I think he is critical to that discussion about the master development agreement as well. Just a heads up.
Does Larry concur with that?
I think that we can be ready to function without Scott. But I don't want to go against the direction of.
Yeah, you don't want to go
ultimately
against
my
the boss, I get it, but.
But I think that,
But there's a deadline, right?
Yeah.
And he may or may not serve. Usually you go and they send you home.
Correct, that's right. And there's certainly a lot we can discuss next Wednesday and work through next
yeah,
Wednesday.
and so, but we're fully prepared and fully
Would
capable of going through all those items, so.
would Thursday work instead of Wednesday?
I don't know. What's Thursday? Is the 5th?
I'm open.
I think so.
We are talking about the,
I've got prior commitments Wednesday and Thursday, but I could probably cancel the Wednesday one.
4th or 5th is fine with me.
I'm good on both as well.
What was
Fourth or fifth is fine, whatever.
Okay. Is the 5th okay for council if we do that?
Well, David just said the 5th isn't
Yeah,
okay for him. He
but
can
I don't
make
want to be the
the 4th
sticky
do
wicket.
it.
This brings up the question that we've talked about, and I think that it gets explained in a non-comprehensive manner where I don't think any of us are opposed to putting the time and effort needed, and we're not opposed to work sessions. It just makes it hard, in a week's notice to just, we're free at any night that we need to meet. We certainly need to meet, need to do it. And it's like a rock and a hard place. If we don't have enough meetings, some of us are upset. And it sometimes comes across as that we're not willing to meet, which is not the case. It's that we have other commitments, and if we could come up with a set designated time and schedule in advance, I think we could all free up our time. And I don't think anyone wants to shirk any duties, and no one wants to be absent, but then you feel bad if you are absent. But then should we just presume that our schedule should be open for any meeting opportunity that needs to take place without a lot of lead time? So it's, I don't have the answer to that. It's going to be a tough one moving forward unless we can designate a standard night and time for these work meetings.
So that takes the conversation a little bit different direction. We can have that conversation, I would suggest having that conversation another time, but do we want to go ahead and meet then on the 5th to discuss the items that have been brought up tonight?
Well, I haven't heard, other than, can you not meet on the, I mean, David said he can't meet on the Thursday. I mean,
Wednesday
on
night
the
did work for me.
Wednesday.
Council Lamb had previously suggested that Wednesdays, the alternating Wednesdays don't work for him either.
Okay, but we're talking one Wednesday. I mean, I get it that we have
You
other.
can meet Wednesday, I won't be there.
Commitments, but if we meet Thursday, then David won't be here.
That's fine. I won't be here Wednesday, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, I just,
What about Tuesday? Can you be ready a little quicker?
Tuesday's bad for him, worse, even worse, so.
Okay, so we got the majority can do Thursday. Yes?
Yeah, and that's why I keep asking, are we okay with Thursday?
I think we have to drive on.
So Thursday?
Everyone's okay with Thursday?
Yep.
Do we want to do 5:30 or do we want to do 6?
Let's do 6, please.
Need dissent? Okay, next Thursday at 6. And my hope would be not so much discussion, but the decision-making. We've had so much discussion, and we've been told these are the things that we'll need you to decide on, but being able to see something in a format like was just presented, like, council, are you okay if we have 4 mil for 30 years? Something like that where we can make definitive progress would be very, very appreciated. I feel like we've been kind of stuck in a loop of discussion and we're having a hard time figuring out how to exit that. So the more progress we can make, the more decisions can be made, the better.
But that 4 mil, 30 years, 50 mil, all that stuff is proposed in the master development plan, right?
When
And so
you
if we're
just-
going through the master development plan and the master development agreement, all that's gonna be covered.
Well, I hope so. If it's not, that's then what we
I
have
see
to
some
add
heads
to it.
nodding yes, so let's be clear, that's gotta be part of it. And I agree with Councilmember McConaughey. Let's have the stuff and point out the stuff that we need to decide so that we can get this done and move forward, because he's right, we're in the Mebius loop right now.
Do we have a projected length that meeting might be anticipated to take? Just a ballpark?
6 hours.
6 to midnight?
6.
Oh, here's 7. 7, do I hear 7?
David,
if we're
I
starting
I
at
would
6
say we're
o'clock.
going to be at least 3 hours.
At least 3? Because I will strive my best to free up the schedule so I could be here at least for the first hour.
Well, would earlier, is 5:30 better for you?
Oh, it's
If we come a
fine.
little, I'm good.
either way.
We can come a little earlier if that's better to help.
No, I've got a meeting before that and then a meeting after that. So really, that's fine. I'll just come from one to the other.
So if you want it on a future agenda to discuss setting dates aside, I'll be your second.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else needed from staff on this one? Larry?
So would it be helpful if I went through the master, or that matrix, for you and kind of pointed out how that corresponds with the development plan? I could send you that information, over the next few days but I don't know if you want something more to read, is what I'm saying. I'll only do it if it's helpful to you. If it's just more junk in your email, then.
We couldn't read what was provided, so
Yeah.
that would be helpful. And I would suggest giving us time to review that and digest that so that we can be prepared when
So
we come back on Thursday.
We'll make sure we get that to you tomorrow, and then we'll kind of go through how this relates back to the development plan.
And Larry?
Yes.
I think that the map you got for me would be helpful for the rest
Okay,
of them as well.
I can do that.
Thanks.
You mean the one, the
With
10
the
acre
red.
thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
And would this be more of a free-flowing discussion? It'll be a work session over across the hall? Will we be in there? So, great, thanks.
All right. That concludes the items on the agenda for tonight. We do not need a closed session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh,
Sorry.
First, Mr. Wall.
You need to go back into regular meeting and make a motion to set the study meeting for next Thursday
Okay.
and vote on it.
We haven't ended our meeting yet. Oh, we need to go back into regular meeting, okay.
Wait a minute, you're in regular meeting.
Well,
Yeah.
we're in work
You
meeting,
still are.
but
Well, I mean, we had the work session, then we came over here and we suspended the formality, the rules of formality for this item. So we're still in our regular council meeting, so.
Then we
if
just
we
need a
need
motion.
Then I
Thank
would.
you.
So I'll make the motion that we set an additional meeting for this particular project for Thursday, March 5th at 6 PM.
And could you indicate that we'll do it over in the shore gallery?
And we'll be in the Shore Gallery.
and I'll second it.
Any discussion to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Noted. Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
May I make one comment just before? Or, well, we've got a motion. It's fine. We'll do it next time.
I'll withdraw the motion so we can hear your comment.
Oh, no, it's, I just didn't want to take too long. I actually should have done it while people were still here right after the public comment section because I don't know if the general public understands that their comments don't fall on deaf ears. It's just that we're not discussing those items and everything is noted and will be followed up on, whether you've had a positive experience with the city or a negative experience with the city. So maybe I or we could do a little bit better job of mentioning that when people are speaking, really, we are going to follow up on all their issues. And lastly, who do we have to thank for the cute baby Yoda child?
Ellen McDonald, my mother.
Well, thank
And
you.
if anybody would want one, just let me know.
Love The Mandalorian. Go Disney. Thank you, and thank you for your refreshments.
Oh, baby Yoda.
Now I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Whitelock. And any discussion to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn is non-debatable, isn't it?
Not debatable, but you can.